You feel the weight before you even begin. A task, a challenge, a moment you know will hurt a little, and yet something inside you still wants to rise. Welcome to Neuro Nap Academy, where discomfort isn't something we run from, but something we learn to understand. Tonight we'll explore how your brain can turn pain into momentum, not by force, not by willpower alone, but by rewiring the very circuits that define how effort feels. What if the struggle you avoid is the very signal your brain needs to grow? Could pain, emotional or physical, actually be a messenger, not an enemy? And is it possible to feel proud in the middle of the process, before the reward even arrives? Maybe you're tired of giving up when it gets hard. Or maybe you're just wondering if you'll ever stop fearing the work itself. If this quiet journey gives you clarity, or even a little more breath between doubts, then stay with us. Let's begin. Not with motivation quotes, but with the biology of becoming someone who chooses effort and learns to love it. The concept of effort can often feel like a weight to bear when you're in the midst of it, whether it's lifting weights at the gym, tackling an intense work deadline, or pushing yourself to stay focused after hours of mental strain. It might seem like pain and effort are your enemies. You might tell yourself, this is too hard, or I'm not cut out for this. It's easy to believe that the people who push through challenges without hesitation are somehow born with a different kind of strength, or an innate gift for perseverance. It's a natural reaction to externalize success, to look at others and say they can do it because they're different, because it allows us to distance ourselves from the discomfort we feel. But here's the powerful truth. The ability to endure, to persevere, to work hard and stay focused is not an inborn talent. It's a skill that can be developed, nurtured and trained, just like any other muscle in the body. And the key to unlocking this skill lies not in trying to avoid the discomfort of effort, but in learning how to embrace it as part of a larger process. Once you reframe pain and discomfort, they stop being barriers and start becoming signals, signs of growth, of progress. Pain doesn't have to be something to run from. In fact, when you understand the neural pathways at play, you'll learn how to use pain to fuel your motivation. This is where neuroscience comes in, offering a fresh perspective on motivation and effort. There's a molecule, a chemical in the brain that plays a crucial role in how we experience motivation: dopamine. You might have heard of dopamine as the feel-good chemical, the one responsible for moments of joy and reward. But dopamine is more than that. It's the chemical that fuels anticipation. It's what drives us to take action, to start the work, even when the reward is still far off in the distance. Dopamine doesn't only show up when we win, it's present most powerfully during the process of striving towards something meaningful. Understanding this can change everything about the way you approach your efforts. You don't have to wait until you've crossed the finish line to feel the reward of your hard work. If you learn to harness dopamine in the midst of your efforts, you can begin to find satisfaction in the process itself. The key is learning how to associate effort, not just success, with reward. Studies on both humans and animals have demonstrated that when dopamine levels are artificially elevated, the brain starts to reframe effort. For example, in a study where mice were given a choice between an easy lever that released food and a more difficult one that required extra effort, the mice began to prefer the harder lever when their dopamine levels were heightened. Their brains had learned to associate effort with the reward of dopamine itself. They weren't just working for the food, they were working for the feeling of accomplishment that came with exertion. The same principle applies to humans. When you train your brain to link effort with the anticipation of a reward, your brain begins to crave the work itself rather than simply the payoff at the end. The more you engage in this process, the more your brain rewires itself to understand that effort is a form of progress. Over time, this shift will change how you approach challenges. You won't see them as obstacles to avoid, but as opportunities for growth. Your nervous system will no longer view the discomfort of effort as something to escape, but as something to lean into. This is where the real transformation happens. But how do you begin to train your brain to make this shift? The answer lies in something simpler than you might think: intentional self-talk. The way you speak to yourself in moments of struggle has the power to shape your brain's response to that struggle. If you tell yourself, "This is too hard, I can't do it," your brain registers that as a signal to quit. But if you say, "This is challenging, but this is where I grow," your brain will interpret the discomfort as a sign of progress. You can rewire your brain to release dopamine during the process, not just at the finish line. This process is not about willpower. It's not about forcing yourself to push through discomfort despite your instincts telling you to stop. It's about changing the way your brain perceives discomfort. The more you practice reframing discomfort as a necessary step in your growth, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your brain will begin to crave the very effort that once felt like a burden. This is not a theoretical exercise. It's a biological shift that you can create within yourself, and it starts with the way you think about pain and motivation. And the best part, this shift doesn't have to take years. You can start reprogramming your brain today. The process begins in small, everyday moments. Next time you face something difficult, pay attention to the language you use with yourself. Remind yourself that every challenge is an opportunity for growth, and soon your brain will start to believe it. With each repetition, the neural connections will grow stronger. What once felt uncomfortable will start to feel like a familiar part of the journey. But that's just the beginning. The more you engage in this practice, the more your brain will begin to see effort itself as a reward. And when that happens, you will no longer see motivation as something you have to force. It will become a natural part of who you are. To truly understand how to shift our relationship with effort and motivation, we must first understand the chemical forces at play in the brain. As mentioned, dopamine plays a pivotal role in how we experience motivation. However, it's important to realize that dopamine's role is far more complex than just rewarding us for reaching the finish line. It is, in fact, the chemical of anticipation, of effort, of striving towards something we desire. Dopamine is released when you anticipate a reward. It's the force that propels you to take action toward a goal, even before you've achieved it. In fact, dopamine doesn't just spike when you achieve success. It surges most strongly when you're engaged in the effort required to reach that success. This is what makes dopamine the chemical of motivation. When you set a goal and start working toward it, dopamine is at the core of your determination. It's the reason why you feel energized when you first begin a task, why that initial burst of excitement can carry you through the early stages. The fascinating thing about dopamine is that it's not just tied to the outcome, it's activated by the pursuit itself. When you engage in an effortful task, the anticipation of the reward triggers dopamine release. But the key to making this work for you lies in learning to associate effort itself with the release of dopamine. This is where most of us get it wrong. We tend to wait for the reward, for the tangible results, before we feel that sense of fulfillment or accomplishment. But what if we could learn to experience that sense of reward during the work itself? What if we could train our brains to release dopamine, not just when we succeed, but as we engage in the effortful process of working toward that success? The power of this shift is immense. When you can train your brain to associate dopamine with effort, not just achievement, you stop fearing hard work. You begin to look forward to challenges because your brain starts to anticipate the feeling of accomplishment that comes with effort. Every step you take toward your goal becomes a source of intrinsic motivation. In fact, neuroscience research supports this idea. In a study where mice were given a choice between an easy path and a more difficult one, the mice with artificially elevated dopamine levels began to choose the more difficult path, despite the fact that it required more effort. The reason they chose the harder path? Their brains had learned to associate the effort with a reward. They were no longer seeking just the end result, they were seeking the pleasure of the effort itself. The same principle applies to humans. When you start to rewire your brain to connect effort with reward, you stop seeing hard work as something to avoid. You begin to crave the challenge because your brain has learned that this is where the dopamine is. It's not about the goal at the end, but about the process itself. This shift is a gradual one. It doesn't happen overnight, and it requires consistent effort and practice. But with every task you approach in this new way, you are retraining your brain to release dopamine during the process, not just at the finish line. Over time, this rewiring becomes automatic. Your brain starts to crave the effort, and motivation no longer feels like something you have to force. It becomes a natural part of the process. But there's another key component to this. In order to make this transformation happen, you need to focus on the neural pathways that connect effort to reward. This is where self-talk comes in. The language you use with yourself during the moments of struggle can either reinforce or disrupt this process. If you tell yourself, "This is hard, I can't do it," you reinforce the idea that effort is something to avoid. But if you say, "This is tough, but this is where I grow," you activate a new neural pathway that links effort with growth and reward. Positive self-talk is a powerful tool in rewiring your brain. It's not just a motivational strategy, it's a biochemical tool. When you speak to yourself in a way that emphasizes growth, progress, and the value of the effort, your brain releases dopamine during the work itself. This is how you can begin to train your brain to find satisfaction in the process rather than just the outcome. This practice doesn't just affect your motivation, it reshapes your entire nervous system. Over time, your brain learns to release dopamine during every effortful task, creating a feedback loop that strengthens your motivation. The more you reinforce this pattern with positive self-talk and a focus on effort, the more your brain will shift its response to challenges. You'll begin to approach hard work not with dread, but with anticipation, knowing that every step you take is bringing you closer to a reward that isn't just tied to the end result, but to the effort itself. This is a powerful tool to have in your arsenal. Once you've trained your brain to crave effort, the way you approach challenges will shift completely. No longer will hard work feel like something to be feared or avoided. Instead, you'll begin to see it as a rewarding and necessary part of your journey. And as your brain becomes more and more conditioned to find pleasure in effort, you'll discover that motivation no longer requires a fight. It becomes a natural part of your behavior. Now that we understand the power of dopamine and the role of effort in motivation, let's dive deeper into how we can leverage this knowledge to shift our approach to challenges. As we've seen, dopamine is not just about the reward at the end of the road, but about the process, the striving toward the goal itself. The question is, how can you, in the middle of your busy, sometimes chaotic life, begin to train your brain to see effort as something to enjoy rather than something to fear or avoid? The answer begins with intention. It's easy to fall into the trap of pushing ourselves without thinking, responding automatically to the demands of life as they come. But what if you could bring intention into your approach to effort? What if you could actively choose to transform the way your brain processes difficulty, discomfort, and struggle? One of the most effective ways to start this transformation is through intentional self-talk. What you say to yourself in those moments of difficulty isn't just an emotional reaction. It's a chemical signal that can reshape your brain. Think of your words as a code that your brain reads and reacts to. When you face a tough moment, the way you frame that experience has the power to either reinforce your old patterns of avoidance and resistance, or help you rewire your brain to associate discomfort with growth and reward. For example, instead of saying, "This is too hard, I can't do it," which reinforces avoidance and sends a signal to your brain to shut down, try saying something like, "This is challenging, but this is where I grow. This discomfort means I'm getting stronger." When you say this, your brain listens. It begins to release dopamine, the chemical of motivation, in response to the effort itself, not just the goal at the end. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require any external motivation or special circumstances. It's something you can do right now, right in the middle of your daily life. Each time you consciously choose to reframe your response to effort, you're creating new neural pathways that associate difficulty with progress. You're rewiring your brain slowly but surely to find joy in the process of effort itself. It's important to note that this kind of self-talk is not about denying the discomfort or pretending that things are easy when they're not. Rather, it's about changing your perception of discomfort. Instead of seeing it as a signal to stop, you begin to see it as a sign that you're on the right path, that growth is happening. You stop viewing pain as a threat, and instead you see it as the very thing that will lead you to a stronger version of yourself. This shift in perspective is at the heart of what makes high achievers different from those who struggle to stay motivated. It's not that successful people don't experience pain, discomfort, and exhaustion. They do. The difference lies in how they process those feelings. Successful individuals have learned to reframe their experience of discomfort, to embrace it as a necessary part of the growth process. This is not a trait they were born with. It's a skill they've developed through consistent practice, repetition, and intention. But this doesn't happen automatically. It requires mindfulness, focus, and a conscious effort to change the way you think. That's why intentional self-talk is so powerful. It allows you to take control of your thoughts in real time, shaping your neural responses to effort and discomfort. When you choose to frame hard work as a growth opportunity, your brain starts to release dopamine every time you push through a challenge, reinforcing the behavior and creating a new feedback loop of motivation. And the more you practice this, the more your brain begins to crave effort. It stops seeing hard work as something to be avoided, and instead starts associating it with progress, achievement, and growth. Over time, what once felt like an uphill battle will start to feel like a rhythm you can flow with. Discomfort becomes less of an obstacle and more of a signal that you are exactly where you need to be to grow stronger, smarter, and more resilient. But let's go even deeper. As you continue this practice, you'll notice something else happening. Your brain will start to rewire not just how you respond to effort, but how you view yourself. As you consistently push through challenges, choosing to see effort as a rewarding experience rather than something to fear, you'll start to build a new identity. You'll no longer see yourself as someone who has to fight to stay motivated. You'll see yourself as someone who thrives in the face of challenges, someone who is always growing and evolving. This shift in identity is key to long-term success. The more you reinforce this mindset, the more deeply it becomes ingrained in your neural pathways. Eventually, you won't need to remind yourself to stay motivated. Your brain will automatically crave the effort because it has learned that this is where the real growth happens. What was once difficult will become familiar, and what was once a source of resistance will become a source of energy. At this point, effort becomes your default response to challenges. You no longer wait for motivation to come to you. You create it through your thoughts and actions. And when you combine this mindset with consistent action, the results are inevitable. You start to see yourself as a resilient, hard-working individual who can tackle anything that comes your way. This transformation is gradual, but it's profound. Each small step you take in reframing your relationship with effort strengthens your neural circuits and builds a new version of yourself. And as this new identity takes root, you'll find that motivation is no longer something you have to chase. It will be something that arises naturally from within. So far, we've explored how effort and discomfort can become powerful catalysts for growth, and how to reframe your relationship with them through intentional self-talk and the strategic use of dopamine. But this transformation doesn't happen just by thinking differently. It requires a deeper, more foundational shift in the way your brain processes challenges. This is where neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire and adapt itself, becomes a crucial concept to understand. Neuroplasticity is the brain's remarkable ability to form new connections, reorganize itself, and adapt based on the experiences you expose it to. It's how you can develop new skills, form new habits, and even reshape your responses to old patterns. The most powerful part of neuroplasticity is that it's not limited to just the positive experiences in life. The brain can also adapt to negative or uncomfortable experiences, reprogramming itself based on how you engage with them. So if you've been used to avoiding discomfort, your brain will have built pathways that encourage avoidance. But by intentionally facing discomfort and reinterpreting it as growth, you can rewire those pathways to encourage resilience instead of resistance. The key idea here is that every time you confront discomfort and push past it, you are teaching your brain a new pattern. This is what makes effort and pain such powerful tools for motivation. The more you challenge yourself, the more you create opportunities for your brain to form new neural connections. And when you combine this process with the earlier shift in perspective to see discomfort as a signal for growth rather than a threat, your brain begins to crave those moments of challenge. The very act of pushing through difficulty becomes reinforcing, activating dopamine, and strengthening your desire to keep going. The fascinating thing about neuroplasticity is that it's not a one-time event. It's a continuous process. Just as you can train your muscles by repeating certain movements, you can train your brain by repeatedly choosing to face discomfort with a positive mindset. Each time you choose to act despite the discomfort, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with resilience, perseverance, and growth. The more you repeat this cycle, the stronger those pathways become, until they eventually become automatic. But there's more. Neuroplasticity also tells us that the brain's ability to change is most powerful when you're in the just hard enough zone. This is the space where the challenge is difficult enough to provoke growth, but not so overwhelming that it causes your brain to shut down. It's the space where neuroplasticity is most activated because it forces the brain to work in new and creative ways. It's not so easy that your brain gets bored, but not so hard that it gives up in defeat. It's the perfect balance, the sweet spot where your brain thrives and adapts most efficiently. In practical terms, this means you need to challenge yourself consistently, but in a way that is manageable. Trying to push yourself too hard too quickly can overwhelm your nervous system and lead to burnout. On the other hand, staying in your comfort zone for too long won't stimulate growth. The key is to find the right balance, challenging yourself just enough to push your limits without triggering feelings of failure or resistance. This creates an optimal environment for neuroplasticity to take place. In this zone, your brain begins to forge new pathways and connections, making the ability to handle difficulty and discomfort stronger with each challenge. When you face these challenges regularly, in an intentional and measured way, your brain begins to recognize them as a normal part of life, not something to shy away from, but something to embrace as a sign of growth. Think of it as training your brain, like you would train your muscles at the gym. You start with small weights, gradually increasing the load as your muscles grow stronger. The same principle applies to your brain. You start with manageable challenges, building up your capacity to handle bigger ones as you go. Over time, what once seemed like insurmountable obstacles become stepping stones in your journey toward growth. This gradual process of adaptation and rewiring takes time. It's not something that happens overnight, but it is something that can happen consistently with the right approach. Every time you face a challenge and push through it, whether it's in the gym, at work, or in your personal life, you're strengthening your brain's capacity for resilience, perseverance, and motivation. And as this process continues, you'll find that effort itself becomes more rewarding. You won't need to wait for the finish line to feel fulfilled. The journey itself, the act of striving, will become intrinsically satisfying. But what does this look like in practice? How can you intentionally create this just hard enough space in your daily life? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to where you're challenging yourself and where you might be avoiding difficulty. Are there areas in your life where you've been shying away from discomfort? Are there goals you've been putting off because the effort seems too daunting? Start small. Identify one area where you can begin to push yourself just a little more. It could be something as simple as setting aside 10 extra minutes for focused work, increasing your physical activity slightly, or tackling a task you've been avoiding. The key is to introduce just enough challenge to stimulate growth without overwhelming yourself. Gradually, as you continue to challenge yourself in this way, you'll find that your brain begins to rewire itself. Difficulty becomes something you actively seek out because you know that's where growth happens. The more you practice this, the stronger your neural circuits become. And as those circuits strengthen, so does your ability to stay motivated, resilient, and focused. You'll start to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. And in doing so, you'll tap into a source of motivation that is sustainable, self-reinforcing, and deeply satisfying. As you continue to build and strengthen your brain's ability to handle discomfort and effort, something powerful begins to emerge, a new identity. When we talk about motivation and resilience, we often think about them as things we have to force ourselves to cultivate. The truth, however, is that motivation and perseverance are deeply intertwined with your self-identity. Who you believe yourself to be shapes your actions, and your actions, over time, reinforce that belief. Identity is not a static concept. It's not something you are born with or something that is fixed for life. Instead, it's something that is constantly being shaped and reinforced by your experiences, behaviors, and choices. And this is where your ability to handle discomfort and stay motivated begins to shift from a conscious effort into an automatic, natural part of who you are. The more you choose to engage with discomfort as a sign of growth, the more you shape your brain to see effort and challenge as parts of your identity. You don't just become someone who works hard because they have to. You become someone who works hard because that's who you are. This shift in identity is profound. When you begin to see yourself as someone who thrives in the face of challenges, you no longer need to rely on external sources of motivation. You stop seeing effort as a fight or a struggle. Instead, effort becomes a natural extension of who you are. You don't need to remind yourself to push through the discomfort. You don't have to force yourself to stay focused. It's simply what you do, because it aligns with your identity. This is where the concept of identity-based habits comes into play. According to research on habit formation, the most powerful way to create lasting change is not by focusing on the specific actions you want to take, but by focusing on who you want to become. When you shift your focus from "I need to do this task" to "I am the kind of person who does this task," you tap into the brain's deeper motivational drivers. Instead of trying to summon motivation, you simply embody the person who is naturally motivated to act. The more you reinforce this identity, the more it becomes ingrained in your neural pathways. Your brain begins to see the actions you take as not just tasks to check off a list, but as reflections of who you are. This process turns effort and discomfort from something you endure into something you actively embrace. It's no longer about forcing yourself to do the hard work. It's about embodying the mindset that makes the hard work feel effortless because it's a natural part of your identity. Consider athletes, artists, or entrepreneurs who consistently push through obstacles. Their success doesn't come from a single moment of extraordinary willpower. It comes from an identity built through countless small choices. They don't need to remind themselves to stay motivated. The motivation is part of who they are. They've trained their brains to see challenge as an opportunity for growth, and in doing so, they've rewired their neural networks to crave effort. The great thing about this is that you can start cultivating this identity today. You don't have to wait until you've mastered a specific skill or completed a particular goal. You begin by acting as if you are already the person who thrives on effort and discomfort. Every time you choose to tackle a challenge with a growth mindset, you reinforce that identity. Every time you push through a moment of difficulty, you send a signal to your brain that this is the kind of person you are. It's important to understand that this process is gradual. It's not an instant transformation, but with consistent practice, you begin to notice shifts in your behavior and mindset. What once felt like a monumental effort becomes a natural part of who you are. This is the essence of building a sustainable, self-reinforcing motivation system. It's not about waiting for motivation to strike. It's about creating an identity that aligns with the very actions you want to take. This shift in identity is also where the concept of self-compassion becomes powerful. As you build this new identity, you may encounter setbacks or moments of self-doubt. It's important to approach these moments with kindness, not criticism. The process of rewiring your brain takes time, and you won't always be perfect. But the key is not to give up on the effort because of a few bumps along the way. Instead, remind yourself that setbacks are just another opportunity to grow, to strengthen your neural connections, and to reinforce the identity you are building. The more you practice self-compassion and stay committed to your growth, the more your brain begins to adapt. Over time, you'll start to experience a deeper sense of satisfaction, not just from achieving your goals, but from the effort itself. The identity you're cultivating will drive you forward, making each challenge an opportunity to reinforce the person you are becoming, a person who thrives in the face of discomfort, a person who embraces effort as the key to growth. So the next time you encounter a difficult task, don't focus on the discomfort or the struggle. Instead, focus on the person you are becoming through this challenge. Remind yourself that this moment of effort is shaping your identity, and that in every step you take, you are strengthening the very neural circuits that will help you thrive in the future. The more you repeat this process, the more it becomes who you are. Effort is no longer something you fight against. It becomes the very thing that drives you forward, and over time you will discover that motivation isn't something you need to chase. It's something that emerges naturally from within. As your brain continues to adapt to this new identity, the one that embraces effort and discomfort, you'll find that motivation becomes increasingly effortless. But, like any skill, the process of reshaping your nervous system requires patience, consistency, and strategic practices. One of the most powerful techniques you can use to continue rewiring your brain is the concept of ritual-based priming. Ritual-based priming is the practice of creating consistent, intentional routines or behaviors that signal to your brain that it's time to focus, engage, and do the hard work. These rituals serve as environmental cues that trigger your brain to shift into a work mode. Think of them as cues that condition your brain to enter a state of focus and motivation. Over time, as you repeat these rituals, your brain begins to automatically associate them with effort and work, making it easier to engage without hesitation. For example, consider the simple ritual of preparing a workspace before sitting down to work. You might clear off the desk, turn off distractions, and perhaps light a candle or play a specific playlist. These small actions, when repeated consistently, send a signal to your brain that it's time to focus and work. Rituals like this don't require any special effort or willpower. They are simply cues that trigger your brain's motivation system. The more you practice them, the more automatic they become, and the less mental energy you need to expend to get into a focused, effort-driven mindset. What makes this process so powerful is that rituals work on an unconscious level. Over time, your brain will begin to associate specific actions with the onset of focused work. This means you don't have to actively push yourself into a state of motivation. The rituals themselves prime your brain to automatically enter that state. This is one of the reasons why high achievers often talk about the importance of having consistent routines. These routines don't just keep them organized, they also create the conditions for their brain to thrive in. However, it's essential to keep in mind that the rituals you create should align with your goals and your environment. It's not enough to simply go through the motions. The rituals need to be meaningful and aligned with the type of work you are engaging in. For example, if your goal is to be more focused during work or study sessions, your ritual might involve turning off your phone and preparing your workspace. If your goal is to enhance physical endurance, your ritual might involve a warm-up routine before every workout. These rituals act as the foundation for building focus, effort, and resilience. Additionally, these rituals can help you maintain momentum throughout the day. It's easy to fall into the trap of feeling unmotivated after a difficult task or a long period of effort. This is where rituals can provide crucial support. If you set up a ritual for moments when you're feeling fatigued, stressed, or overwhelmed, it can serve as a mental reset. For example, you could practice deep breathing or use a short physical activity like stretching to release tension. These small actions signal to your brain that you are intentionally shifting gears and preparing yourself to dive back into the work at hand. One of the keys to success with ritual-based priming is the idea of consistency. The more often you engage in your rituals, the stronger the neural association between those rituals and focused work becomes. Eventually, these rituals become powerful mental tools, allowing you to bypass the usual mental resistance and jump straight into the work. Over time, your brain no longer needs to search for motivation. It knows that when the ritual is in place, the work is about to begin. Rituals also have another important benefit. They create a sense of control and predictability. When you design your environment and routines intentionally, you take the guesswork out of motivation. Instead of waiting for motivation to strike or struggling to push yourself into action, you've created a situation where motivation is built into the process. Your brain knows that the ritual means something important is coming, and it begins to prepare to engage in effortful work. This sense of control is crucial for building momentum because it reduces the mental resistance that can hold you back. But the power of rituals doesn't stop at work-related tasks. You can also apply the concept of ritual-based priming to the areas of rest and recovery. As we've discussed, recovery is just as crucial as effort in the process of rewiring your brain. It's essential to give your brain the rest it needs to repair and strengthen the neural connections you've worked so hard to create. Just as you set up rituals for work, you can also create rituals that prime your brain for relaxation and recovery. For instance, you might set a routine for winding down before bed, such as dimming the lights, reading a book, or practicing deep breathing. These rituals signal to your brain that it's time to rest and recover. Over time, these relaxation rituals will help you transition more easily from work mode to rest mode, ensuring that your brain has the chance to rejuvenate. Recovery rituals also help you avoid the trap of burnout. They create space for your nervous system to recharge, ensuring that you have the energy needed to continue engaging in effortful work when you return to it. Another powerful way to integrate rituals into your life is through environmental priming. The environment you spend time in plays a huge role in how your brain functions. If you spend your time in an environment that is chaotic, noisy, or disorganized, it can be much harder for your brain to focus and engage in effortful tasks. On the other hand, when you intentionally design your environment to support focus and motivation, you're creating external cues that trigger the internal processes of effort and work. For example, you might choose a specific spot to work that is quiet and free from distractions. You could set up a clean, organized desk with only the tools you need for the task at hand. The act of entering that space becomes a ritual in itself. Your brain begins to associate that space with focus and productivity. Similarly, your social environment plays a huge role in shaping your motivation. If you regularly spend time with people who value hard work, resilience, and growth, your brain will begin to mirror that mindset through mirror neurons, the brain's way of copying the behavior and attitudes of those around you. This is why it's so important to curate the environment you work in, both physically and socially. Surround yourself with people who encourage growth, and design a physical space that primes your brain for success. Over time, these environmental cues become part of your brain's automatic response system, making it easier to stay motivated and focused without having to fight for it. In conclusion, rituals and environmental priming are essential tools in your journey to rewiring your brain. They create a predictable, supportive environment that makes motivation and effort a natural part of your daily routine. The more you practice these rituals, the more automatic they become, and the easier it is for you to engage in focused work and embrace the effort required for growth. And as your rituals and environment align with your goals, you'll find that motivation no longer feels like something you have to summon. Instead, it becomes a natural response to the habits, rituals, and environments you've designed to support your growth. Now that we've explored how rituals and environmental priming can help you engage more naturally in effortful work, it's time to dive deeper into the concept of focus, one of the most critical skills when it comes to sustaining motivation. Focus isn't something that just happens. It's a skill that can be trained, strengthened, and developed over time. And just like any muscle, the more you exercise it, the more powerful and automatic it becomes. Focus is a mental muscle that, when properly trained, allows you to direct your attention toward the task at hand without being easily distracted. The challenge for most of us is that in today's fast-paced world, distractions are everywhere, from social media notifications to the constant stream of information coming at us. Staying focused for long periods can feel like an impossible task. But the good news is that focus, just like physical strength, can be developed with practice. The first thing to understand about focus is that it's a deliberate choice. It's easy to think that focus is a trait you either have or don't have, but in reality, focus is something you can control and train. When you choose to focus, you are making an active decision to direct your attention toward one thing at a time. This isn't always easy, especially when you're faced with tasks that feel challenging, uncomfortable, or mentally taxing. But with the right techniques and mindset, you can train your brain to stay focused for longer periods, making it easier to engage in effort and experience motivation. One of the most effective techniques for building focus is the Pomodoro technique. This technique involves breaking your work into short, focused intervals, typically 25 minutes, followed by a short break. After 4 intervals, you take a longer break, 15 to 30 minutes. The Pomodoro technique works because it trains your brain to focus intensely for a short period, followed by a recovery period, which helps prevent burnout. This approach not only helps you build your focus over time, but also makes the effort of working feel more manageable, as it's broken down into smaller, more achievable chunks. The beauty of the Pomodoro technique is that it creates a feedback loop. Each time you complete a focused interval, your brain releases a small amount of dopamine as a reward. This encourages you to keep going, reinforcing the idea that focus is a behavior worth repeating. Over time, you'll find that it becomes easier to stay focused for longer periods without needing as many breaks. Your brain learns that focusing brings rewards, and this creates a powerful, self-reinforcing motivation system. In addition to using techniques like the Pomodoro technique, it's important to create an environment that supports focus. Just as we discussed how rituals can prime your brain for work, your environment plays a crucial role in determining how easily you can stay focused. If you work in a cluttered, noisy space, your brain will be constantly bombarded with distractions, making it much harder to stay focused on the task at hand. On the other hand, if you create a clean, organized, and distraction-free space, your brain will associate that environment with focus and productivity. To build focus, begin by designing a space that minimizes distractions. This might mean turning off your phone or using apps that block distracting websites. It could also mean setting up a designated workspace where you can immerse yourself fully in the task at hand. The more you set up your environment for success, the easier it will be to maintain focus and stay engaged in your work. Another essential aspect of training focus is learning to control mental distractions. Your brain will naturally wander from time to time. It's a normal part of the cognitive process. The key is to recognize when your attention drifts and gently bring it back to the task. One of the most effective ways to do this is through mindfulness practices. Mindfulness involves bringing your attention back to the present moment without judgment, allowing you to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. When you practice mindfulness regularly, you strengthen your brain's ability to stay present. You become less likely to get lost in distractions and more able to return your attention to the task at hand. Over time, this practice helps you build mental resilience, allowing you to stay focused and motivated even in the face of challenges. In addition to mindfulness, another technique that supports focus is mental reframing. This involves changing the way you perceive a task to make it more engaging. For example, Instead of thinking of a difficult project as something you have to get through, reframe it as an opportunity to learn or grow. This shift in mindset not only makes the task more enjoyable, but also triggers the release of dopamine, making the effort feel more rewarding. Another important aspect of focus is energy management. Just as physical endurance requires proper nutrition and rest, mental endurance requires attention to your energy levels. If you're constantly pushing yourself without adequate breaks or rest, your focus will begin to falter. This is why it's essential to schedule regular breaks throughout the day. In addition to using techniques like the Pomodoro technique, make sure to listen to your body and give yourself permission to take breaks when needed. Rest isn't a sign of weakness. It's a critical component of sustaining focus and motivation over the long term. The more you practice staying focused, the easier it will become. Focus becomes a skill that gets stronger the more you use it, just like any other muscle. Eventually you will find that staying focused becomes a natural part of who you are, and motivation will follow. When focus becomes automatic, effort no longer feels like a struggle. Instead, it feels like a natural part of the process, and your brain begins to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. But remember, focus is not a one-time achievement. It's something you have to continuously practice and develop. The more you work on strengthening your focus, the more resilient and motivated you will become. And as you continue to build this skill, you'll find that effort no longer feels like something you have to force. It becomes a part of who you are, a natural, effortless extension of your identity as someone who thrives on challenge, growth, and accomplishment. In conclusion, focus is one of the most important skills you can develop in your journey to rewiring your brain for motivation. By using techniques like the Pomodoro technique, designing a distraction-free environment, and practicing mindfulness, you can train your brain to stay focused and engaged in effortful work. Over time, this focus will become automatic, and motivation will follow naturally. And as you continue to build this skill, you'll find that the very act of engaging in effort becomes rewarding, fueling your motivation and helping you reach new levels of achievement. As you continue to build focus and the mental discipline required for sustained effort, another critical element of success is the ability to enter and sustain flow. Flow is a mental state where you are fully immersed in a task, experiencing a deep sense of focus, enjoyment, and even timelessness. It's a state where the effort feels effortless and time seems to disappear. This is the sweet spot where you can achieve peak performance, and it is, in essence, the place where your brain operates at its best. The concept of flow was first introduced by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who defined it as the state of being in the zone. When you're in flow, you are so engaged with your task that nothing else matters. The challenge with flow, however, is that it's not something you can force. It's a natural state that emerges when certain conditions are met. But the good news is that you can train your brain to enter flow more frequently and consistently by understanding how flow works and creating the right environment for it to happen. At the heart of flow is a delicate balance between challenge and skill. In order to enter flow, the task you're working on must be challenging enough to keep your brain engaged, but not so overwhelming that it leads to frustration or anxiety. If the task is too easy, you will become bored, and if it's too difficult, you may become stressed. Flow occurs when the challenge of the task matches your skill level. When you're in this just hard enough zone, you experience a sense of engagement, enjoyment, and fulfillment. This balance between challenge and skill is critical because it signals to your brain that you are operating at the edge of your abilities, just outside your comfort zone, but not so far that you feel overwhelmed. It's a space where growth occurs, and the brain rewards that growth with the release of dopamine. But entering this state of flow requires a specific environment and mindset. One of the key factors in creating the conditions for flow is minimizing distractions. In order to fully immerse yourself in a task, you need to create an environment that allows you to focus completely on the work at hand. This means eliminating external distractions, such as turning off notifications, closing unnecessary tabs on your computer, or setting boundaries with others. The less you have to divide your attention, the more likely you are to enter a state of flow. But flow isn't just about minimizing distractions. It's also about setting clear goals. When you have a clear sense of what you're trying to achieve, your brain can focus all of its energy on the task. Without a clear goal, your brain is forced to wander, and it becomes much harder to get into flow. Clear goals give your brain something to focus on, creating a sense of purpose and direction. Another critical factor in entering flow is autonomy. Flow is most likely to occur when you have some level of control over the task you're working on, when you feel empowered to make decisions and engage with the work in your own way. You are more likely to enter a state of flow. Autonomy allows you to approach the task with creativity and flexibility, which enhances the likelihood of being fully immersed in the work. The role of feedback is also crucial in entering and maintaining flow. Feedback helps you understand how you're progressing and whether you're on track to achieve your goal. It provides your brain with information about how well you're doing and what adjustments might be needed. In the absence of feedback, it's much harder to stay engaged with the task because you don't have a clear sense of whether your efforts are leading to success. Positive feedback reinforces the pleasure of the effort, helping you stay in flow longer. However, the most important factor in maintaining flow is mindset. Flow doesn't happen by accident. It requires an intentional mindset that embraces challenge and the process of striving. You need to view the task not as a source of stress or pressure, but as an opportunity to engage fully and perform at your best. This is where your mindset, which we've been building throughout this process, comes into play. If you've reconditioned your brain to see effort as rewarding, you will naturally be more likely to enter flow because your brain associates challenge with growth, not with failure. One way to encourage the right mindset for flow is to focus on the process, not just the outcome. Flow is a state that arises when you are fully absorbed in the present moment, when you are focused on the task rather than on the reward at the end. If you're constantly thinking about the outcome, whether it's a paycheck, a promotion, or any other form of recognition, you will find it harder to enter flow. Instead, focus on the process itself, the joy of problem solving, the satisfaction of making progress, and the engagement with the task. Creating an environment that promotes flow requires deliberate practice. You can't simply will yourself into a state of flow. It takes time and effort to train your brain to enter this optimal state regularly. The more you practice entering flow, the easier it becomes to access it when you need it. In fact, flow is a learned skill that, like any other skill, gets better with practice. Here are a few strategies you can use to increase your chances of entering flow. 1. Break tasks into smaller steps. If a task feels overwhelming, break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks. This helps you focus on one thing at a time and creates a clear path toward achieving your goal. 2. Minimize distractions. Create a focused environment by eliminating external distractions. Turn off your phone, close unnecessary browser tabs, and set boundaries with others to protect your time and attention. 3. Set clear goals. Having a clear goal provides direction and purpose. It allows you to measure your progress and stay engaged with the task. 4. Engage in deliberate practice. Challenge yourself just enough to push your skills without overwhelming yourself. This balance between challenge and skill is the key to entering flow. Focus on the process. Instead of obsessing over the end result, focus on the joy of the task itself. Enjoy the act of doing the work and let go of the pressure to perform. By consistently using these strategies, you'll increase the likelihood of entering flow, which will make the effort feel more enjoyable and rewarding. As flow becomes a more regular part of your life, you'll find that motivation is no longer something you have to force. It's a natural byproduct of the focused, engaged effort you put into your work. In the end, flow represents the ultimate alignment between your effort, your skill, and your motivation. It's the sweet spot where you can perform at your best, engage fully with your work, and experience a deep sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. The more you practice entering this state, the more effortless it will feel, and the more your brain will crave the effort that flows from it. As you continue to develop your ability to enter flow and sustain motivation, it's important to understand that effort and recovery are not opposing forces. They are complementary. In fact, one cannot exist without the other in the pursuit of long-term success. While effort is necessary for progress and growth, recovery is just as crucial for sustaining and optimizing that progress. Without recovery, your brain and body will burn out, and the very motivation you've worked so hard to cultivate will begin to fade. Understanding recovery in the context of neuroscience means recognizing that your brain, much like any other part of your body, requires time to rest and repair in order to function at its best. This isn't just about physical rest, it's about mental and emotional recovery as well. When you put in effort, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, you are essentially depleting your brain's resources. To replenish those resources and avoid burnout, you must integrate intentional recovery practices into your routine. One of the most powerful recovery mechanisms for your brain is quality sleep. Sleep is when your brain consolidates memories, repairs neural pathways, and processes the information it has accumulated throughout the day. Without sufficient rest, your brain becomes less efficient at processing information and managing stress. This can lead to a decrease in motivation, focus, and overall mental performance. Quality sleep isn't just about the quantity of hours you spend in bed, it's about the quality of that sleep. Poor sleep hygiene, such as inconsistent sleep schedules, excessive screen time before bed, or a noisy sleeping environment, can hinder the brain's ability to recover properly. Sleep is particularly important for those who are training their brains to handle effort and discomfort. The brain undergoes important restorative processes during sleep that are crucial for reinforcing the neural connections created during your effortful tasks. These connections, whether related to focus, perseverance, or resilience, are strengthened during sleep, allowing you to tackle new challenges with greater ease the following day. To optimize sleep for recovery, it's important to establish a consistent sleep schedule and create a bedtime ritual that signals to your brain that it's time to rest. This could include winding down with calming activities such as reading or meditation, and avoiding stimulating activities like using electronic devices or engaging in intense mental work right before bed. The more you prioritize quality sleep, the better equipped your brain will be to handle the demands of sustained effort. Another essential aspect of recovery is mental relaxation. The brain needs downtime to process emotions, release tension, and prevent the build-up of stress. This is why practices like meditation, mindfulness, and deep breathing exercises are incredibly valuable for maintaining motivation and resilience. These practices allow your brain to shift from a state of heightened stress to one of calm and restoration. By engaging in regular mindfulness practices, you not only reduce stress, but also improve your ability to focus, make decisions, and regulate your emotions, all of which contribute to sustaining motivation. Deep breathing, in particular, is a powerful tool for activating the body's relaxation response. When you're feeling overwhelmed by a challenge or task, your body tends to go into a state of fight or flight, increasing levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and making it harder to focus or stay calm. Deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, helping to counteract this stress response. Slow, intentional breathing allows you to reset your nervous system, return to a state of calm, and re-engage with your work with greater focus and clarity. Incorporating deep breathing exercises throughout your day, especially during moments of high stress, can significantly improve your ability to recover and stay motivated. Physical activity also plays a crucial role in recovery. While exercise may seem like an additional source of effort, it's actually one of the best ways to support recovery for both the brain and body. Physical exercise helps to reduce stress, improve mood, and enhance cognitive function by increasing blood flow to the brain and stimulating the production of beneficial neurotransmitters like serotonin and endorphins. These chemicals promote feelings of well-being, helping you recover from the mental and emotional fatigue of sustained effort. Moreover, exercise is also essential for ensuring that your body stays in optimal condition to handle the physical demands of effort. Regular movement, whether through walking, stretching, yoga, or more intense forms of exercise, helps to release physical tension and improve circulation, which in turn supports overall brain function. However, it's important to find a balance. Just like effort, exercise requires a proper balance of intensity and recovery. Overtraining, just like overworking, can lead to burnout, fatigue, and decreased motivation. It's essential to allow your body time to rest and repair between physical exertion to ensure that you maintain a sustainable level of energy and motivation. Nutrition is another foundational component of recovery. Just as your brain needs quality rest to recover from effort, it also needs the right nutrients to fuel its processes. The food you consume directly impacts how well your brain can function, process information, and regulate emotions. A diet rich in whole foods, including healthy fats, proteins, and complex carbohydrates, provides your brain with the nutrients it needs to optimize cognitive function. In particular, omega-3 fatty acids found in fish, nuts, and seeds are essential for brain health, helping to reduce inflammation and improve memory and focus. Additionally, micronutrients, such as vitamins B, D, and magnesium, play a crucial role in brain health and recovery. Deficiencies in these nutrients can lead to cognitive fatigue, mood swings, and difficulty maintaining focus. Proper hydration is also essential for maintaining mental clarity and energy. Dehydration can impair cognitive performance, making it harder to focus and stay motivated, so it's important to drink enough water throughout the day. Incorporating intentional recovery into your routine is not a sign of weakness or laziness. It's an essential part of building long-term resilience and sustaining motivation. Recovery allows your brain and body to recharge, repair, and come back stronger. It helps to avoid burnout, maintain mental clarity, and ensure that you can continue to push forward with sustained effort over the long term. As you cultivate your ability to endure and embrace effort, it's important to remember that rest and recovery are equally important. Without them, the energy and motivation you've worked so hard to build will begin to fade. By prioritizing quality sleep, mental relaxation, physical activity, and proper nutrition, you ensure that your brain and body are in the best possible condition to continue pushing forward. It's essential to view effort and recovery not as opposing forces, but as parts of a continuous symbiotic cycle. Effort without recovery leads to burnout, but recovery without effort leads to stagnation. Together, they create a sustainable, balanced approach to building long-term motivation and resilience. By integrating these recovery practices into your routine, you can ensure that your motivation remains high, your focus sharp, and your ability to overcome challenges stronger than ever. As you refine your ability to manage effort and recovery, there's another aspect of motivation that cannot be overlooked: environmental influence. The environments we choose to live, work, and socialize play a significant role in shaping our mental state and ultimately our motivation levels. While it's true that we can take personal responsibility for our mindset, behaviors, and habits, our environment is a powerful force that can either support or hinder our efforts. This is why intentionally designing your environment, both physical and social, can drastically influence your ability to sustain effort and remain motivated. The brain is highly sensitive to its environment, from the way we interact with our surroundings to the people we associate with. Our environment provides constant signals that shape our behavior and mental state. The physical environment you occupy affects your cognitive function, emotional state, and overall energy levels. For example, a cluttered or disorganized workspace can make it harder for you to focus, leading to distractions and increased stress. On the other hand, a clean, organized space sends signals to your brain that it's time to focus and be productive. The environment you create can either promote motivation and focus or lead to procrastination and mental fatigue. To optimize your physical environment for motivation, begin by removing unnecessary clutter. A cluttered workspace not only makes it difficult to concentrate, but it also increases stress, which can drain your mental energy. By creating a clean and organized environment, you give your brain the space it needs to focus on the task at hand. This doesn't just apply to your desk or office. Your entire home or living space can influence your state of mind. For instance, having a designated area for work, separate from spaces for relaxation or entertainment, helps your brain differentiate between times for focus and times for rest. The use of lighting in your environment also plays a significant role in regulating your mental energy. Research has shown that exposure to natural light helps to regulate your circadian rhythm, improving both focus and sleep quality. When possible, try to position your workspace near a window where you can benefit from natural light. If that's not possible, consider investing in full-spectrum light bulbs that mimic natural light. Additionally, lighting can affect the ambience of a room, influencing your emotional state. Bright, cool-toned lights may promote alertness and productivity, while dim, warm-toned lights can help you wind down and relax. Adjusting the lighting to suit the activity at hand can help you maintain motivation and focus throughout the day. Temperature is another environmental factor that affects your ability to focus and stay motivated. Studies have shown that people tend to perform better in moderately cool environments, as heat can lead to sluggishness and decreased cognitive function. If possible, adjust the temperature of your workspace to ensure comfort without distraction. In a warm environment, you may feel fatigued, while an overly cold environment can make it difficult to focus. A temperature in the range of 65 to 70 F, 18 to 21 crows, is generally considered optimal for concentration and mental performance. While the physical environment plays a crucial role, the social environment is equally important in shaping your motivation and effort. The people you surround yourself with have a profound impact on your mindset and behavior. Your social circle either nurtures your resilience and motivation or drains your energy. Positive, supportive individuals who share similar goals and values can help propel you forward, while negative, toxic people can sabotage your progress by reinforcing doubt, procrastination, and complacency. Surrounding yourself with individuals who value effort, resilience, and personal growth is one of the most effective ways to build a supportive environment. These people act as a mirror, reflecting your behaviors and reinforcing the mindset you want to develop. For example, if you spend time with individuals who constantly complain, procrastinate, or avoid challenges, your brain will begin to adopt those same patterns of behavior. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with individuals who are driven, goal-oriented, and persistent, your brain will naturally align with that mindset. Mirror neurons in the brain make us highly receptive to the behavior and attitudes of others, which is why it's essential to curate your social circle carefully. Beyond your immediate social circle, the media and content you consume also shape your mindset and motivation. If you constantly consume negative news, media that glorifies instant gratification, or content that promotes laziness and complacency, your brain will internalize these messages. The content you expose yourself to can reinforce certain beliefs and behaviors, either motivating you to take action or discouraging you from doing the hard work necessary for growth. Instead of passively consuming content, take a more intentional approach by curating the types of media and influences that align with your values and goals. This can mean following social media accounts that promote growth, learning, and motivation, reading books and articles that challenge your thinking, or listening to podcasts that inspire and encourage you. The more you expose yourself to positive influences, the more your brain will internalize those messages, making them a natural part of your mindset. Setting boundaries with people and media is essential in creating a motivational environment. If you find yourself spending too much time with individuals who drain your energy or consuming content that leads to procrastination and negativity, it's important to set limits. This may mean reducing time spent on social media, stepping away from conversations that are not aligned with your goals, or actively seeking out communities and groups that support your journey. Boundaries are not about shutting yourself off from others, but about protecting your energy and focusing on the influences that will help you grow. Another powerful tool for creating a motivating environment is the concept of ritual-based priming we discussed earlier. You can create rituals that help you engage with your environment in a more intentional way. This might involve setting up a space where you perform focused work, designing a morning routine that primes your brain for productivity, or creating specific rituals that signal to your brain that it's time to relax and recover. The more you can tie specific environments or actions to certain behaviors, the more automatic and effortless motivation will become. Consistency is the key to maintaining a motivating environment. It's not enough to occasionally surround yourself with positivity and focus. You must make it a part of your daily life. Consistently setting up your physical space, curating your social circle, and protecting your mental energy from distractions will gradually shape the way your brain responds to effort. Over time, these environmental cues will become deeply ingrained in your neural circuits, making it easier to stay motivated and focused without the constant need for external motivation. In conclusion, your environment, both physical and social, has a profound impact on your ability to sustain effort and motivation. By intentionally designing your surroundings to support your goals, you can reduce mental resistance and create a space that encourages focus, productivity, and growth. Whether it's minimizing distractions in your physical space, surrounding yourself with positive, like-minded individuals, or consuming media that inspires you, your environment plays a critical role in shaping the success of your efforts. Through consistent practice and mindfulness, you can create an environment that becomes a natural extension of your motivated, focused mindset. As we continue to explore the powerful tools and techniques for rewiring your brain, there's one key aspect that often goes overlooked in the pursuit of motivation: the power of small wins. While we often focus on big goals and long-term achievements, it's the small, consistent victories along the way that create the momentum needed to stay motivated. Small wins build confidence, reinforce positive behaviors, and ultimately lead to greater success over time. The brain is wired to respond to rewards, and small wins act as those rewards. Every time you achieve a small goal, even if it seems insignificant in the grand scheme of things, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine, the same chemical that fuels motivation and keeps you moving forward. This release of dopamine acts as positive reinforcement, signaling to your brain that what you've done is worth repeating. Over time, these small wins accumulate, creating a feedback loop that strengthens your motivation and encourages you to keep going. The beauty of small wins lies in their ability to sustain long-term effort. Motivation can be fleeting, especially when faced with large, daunting tasks. However, when you break those tasks down into smaller, more manageable goals, you create opportunities for frequent rewards. These small victories provide a sense of progress and fulfillment, making it easier to stay engaged with the process, even when the end goal feels distant or overwhelming. This concept is rooted in neuroscience. When you achieve a goal, no matter how small, your brain experiences a sense of accomplishment. This triggers the reward system and releases dopamine, which reinforces the behavior that led to the achievement. It's this positive feedback loop that drives motivation. The more small wins you accumulate, the stronger this loop becomes, making it easier to maintain focus and effort over the long haul. To leverage the power of small wins, it's important to break down larger goals into smaller, actionable steps. Instead of focusing on a big goal like write a book or run a marathon, break it down into smaller milestones such as write 500 words today or run 2 miles. By doing this, you create a series of achievable goals that you can track and celebrate. Each time you accomplish one of these smaller steps, you reinforce the behavior and create a sense of progress. Another effective strategy is to celebrate your small wins. While the accomplishments may seem modest, acknowledging them is a crucial step in reinforcing positive behavior. Taking a moment to recognize your achievements, even if it's just a mental acknowledgement, helps to cement the idea that your efforts are leading to success. This celebration doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be something as simple as patting yourself on the back, or taking a brief break to reflect on what you've accomplished. This sense of recognition helps to boost your confidence and motivation, encouraging you to keep going. Small wins also serve as a confidence booster, especially during challenging times. When you encounter setbacks or face difficult tasks, it's easy to lose confidence and feel like progress is impossible. However, if you have a collection of small wins to look back on, they serve as reminders of your ability to overcome obstacles and keep moving forward. These victories act as proof that you are capable of achieving your goals, which can be incredibly motivating during moments of doubt. Incorporating small wins into your daily routine doesn't require monumental changes. It's about shifting your perspective to focus on the progress you're making, no matter how small. For example, if you're working on a long-term project, set daily or weekly targets that are achievable and within your control. Whether it's completing a task, making progress on a larger goal, or simply staying consistent, these small steps add up over time. The more you focus on these incremental wins, the more motivated you'll feel to continue working toward your ultimate goal. One of the challenges of small wins is that they often go unrecognized. In a world that celebrates grand achievements, it's easy to overlook the smaller, quieter successes. But by actively seeking out and acknowledging small wins, you shift your focus to the positive aspects of your progress, rather than the perceived shortcomings. This mindset shift not only makes it easier to stay motivated, but it also helps to cultivate a greater sense of self-worth and accomplishment. Moreover, small wins lead to larger transformations. Each small victory is a building block that contributes to long-term success. Over time, these small steps create momentum, making it easier to tackle larger challenges. This is why consistency is so important. By focusing on small, manageable goals, you can create a pattern of success that propels you forward even when faced with obstacles. The science of habit formation supports this idea. When you engage in a behavior repeatedly, you reinforce neural pathways in the brain, making it easier to continue that behavior in the future. Small wins, when repeated consistently, strengthen these pathways and make the desired behavior automatic. This is how habits are formed, through consistent, incremental progress. The more you celebrate small wins and make them a part of your routine, the more they become ingrained in your daily life. Small wins are also a powerful tool for building resilience. When faced with difficult challenges, it's easy to feel defeated or overwhelmed. However, by breaking those challenges down into smaller steps, you create a roadmap that guides you through the process. Each small win helps you build the mental and emotional resilience needed to face larger obstacles. Over time, this builds your capacity to handle more complex tasks and setbacks without losing motivation. Finally, small wins help you redefine success. Instead of tying success to a singular, far-off outcome, you begin to see success as a series of steps along the way. This shift in perspective makes it easier to stay engaged with the process, even when the end goal seems distant. By embracing the idea that success is a journey, not a destination, you empower yourself to keep moving forward, step by step. To make the most of small wins, follow these strategies. 1. Set achievable goals. Break down larger tasks into smaller, actionable steps that are within your control. 2. Track your progress. Keep a record of your small wins to visually reinforce your progress. Celebrate victories. Acknowledge each small win, no matter how modest, to reinforce the behavior and boost your motivation. 4. Reflect on your success. Regularly take a moment to reflect on how far you've come and the positive steps you've taken toward your goal. Build momentum. Use small wins to build confidence and momentum, making it easier to tackle larger challenges. Small wins are an incredibly powerful tool for maintaining motivation, building resilience, and achieving long-term success. By focusing on incremental progress and celebrating each victory, you create a positive feedback loop that reinforces your efforts and strengthens your drive. As you continue to accumulate these small wins, they will eventually lead you to the larger goals you've set for yourself. As you continue to accumulate small wins and create a supportive environment that fosters motivation, one of the most important aspects of building long-term resilience is learning how to overcome procrastination. Procrastination is a natural human response to discomfort, fear, or the perceived difficulty of a task. It's the tendency to delay important work in favor of more immediate, less challenging activities. While procrastination might offer temporary relief from discomfort, it ultimately drains your energy, increases stress, and disrupts your ability to make meaningful progress toward your goals. Understanding the science behind procrastination and learning how to combat it is essential for maintaining motivation and building long-term success. At the core of procrastination lies the brain's response to negative emotions, such as anxiety, fear, or self-doubt. When faced with a challenging task, your brain instinctively seeks to avoid discomfort, which leads you to choose tasks that feel more immediately rewarding or less stressful. This avoidance behavior is driven by the brain's desire to maintain a state of emotional comfort, even at the cost of long-term success. In this sense, procrastination can be seen as a coping mechanism for dealing with the stress and discomfort associated with difficult tasks. However, this avoidance comes with consequences. The more you procrastinate, the more you reinforce the habit of avoiding discomfort, making it harder to engage in effortful tasks in the future. The longer you delay, the more anxiety and stress build up, making it even harder to begin the task. This creates a vicious cycle, where procrastination leads to more procrastination, and the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes to break the habit. The key to overcoming procrastination is to address the underlying emotional and cognitive factors that drive it. Instead of trying to fight procrastination with willpower alone, it's more effective to focus on changing your relationship with discomfort and learning how to manage it more effectively. One of the most effective strategies for overcoming procrastination is to break tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. Large tasks can feel overwhelming, which leads to avoidance. However, when you break the task down into smaller, actionable pieces, it becomes more approachable. For example, instead of thinking about writing an entire report, focus on writing one section at a time. Instead of exercising for an hour, focus on a 10-minute warm-up. These small, achievable goals reduce the sense of overwhelm and make it easier to get started. When you tackle tasks in smaller chunks, you create opportunities for small wins. Each time you complete a step, no matter how small, you give your brain a sense of accomplishment and reward. This release of dopamine helps to reinforce the behavior, making it easier to continue working. Over time, this incremental progress builds momentum and reduces the temptation to procrastinate. Another powerful tool for overcoming procrastination is the concept of time blocking. Time blocking is the practice of setting aside specific, dedicated periods of time to focus on a single task or activity. By allocating time in advance and setting clear boundaries, you reduce the mental energy required to decide when to start and how long to work. Time blocking makes it easier to stay on track and avoid distractions. For example, you might decide to work on a project for 30 minutes without checking email, social media, or other distractions. This focused period of work eliminates the decision-making process and helps you get started without the usual mental resistance. In addition to time blocking, it's important to incorporate accountability into your routine. When you have someone to check in with or a system for tracking progress, you're more likely to stay committed to your tasks. Accountability creates external pressure that helps you follow through on your goals. This could involve sharing your goals with a friend or colleague, setting deadlines for yourself, or using productivity tools that track your progress. The act of having to report your progress or meet an external deadline can be a powerful motivator to push through procrastination. It's also essential to manage your energy levels throughout the day. Procrastination often happens when you feel mentally or physically fatigued, making it harder to muster the energy to start a task. Managing your energy involves knowing when to take breaks, how to stay energized, and how to avoid burnout. If you're feeling drained or unfocused, it's more difficult to engage with effortful tasks. Take note of your energy patterns and schedule your most demanding tasks during periods when you feel most alert and focused. For some people, this may be early in the morning. For others, it could be late in the afternoon. By aligning your tasks with your natural energy flow, you can make it easier to stay on track and reduce procrastination. Another effective strategy is to change your environment to remove distractions and create a sense of urgency. For example, if you're prone to checking your phone while working, consider turning off notifications or putting your phone in another room. If your workspace is cluttered, take a few minutes to organize it. By creating a workspace that is conducive to focus and free from distractions, you eliminate the temptation to procrastinate. Environment plays a huge role in motivation, and a well-designed workspace can help you stay focused and productive. Lastly, self-compassion is an essential tool in overcoming procrastination. It's easy to fall into a pattern of negative self-talk when you procrastinate, which only increases feelings of guilt, shame, and stress. These emotions make procrastination worse, as they trigger a fight-or-flight response and lead to further avoidance. Instead of beating yourself up for procrastinating, approach yourself with compassion and understanding. Acknowledge that procrastination is a common experience and that it doesn't define your ability to succeed. By treating yourself with kindness, you reduce the emotional pressure that fuels procrastination and make it easier to get back on track. Incorporating self-compassion into your approach to procrastination also involves accepting imperfection. Often we procrastinate because we fear failure or making mistakes. By embracing the idea that progress, not perfection, is the goal, you reduce the pressure that holds you back. Allow yourself to make mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward. This mindset shift helps you break the cycle of procrastination and build resilience in the face of challenges. In conclusion, overcoming procrastination is not about forcing yourself to work harder or being more disciplined. It's about changing your relationship with discomfort, fear, and task-related anxiety. By breaking tasks into smaller steps, using time blocking, incorporating accountability, managing your energy, creating a distraction-free environment, and practicing self-compassion, you can effectively combat procrastination and build the momentum needed to stay motivated and engaged. Remember, procrastination is a normal human behavior, but by understanding its roots and applying these strategies, you can break the cycle and achieve greater focus, productivity, and long-term success. As you continue to build a sustainable, motivated mindset by combating procrastination and reinforcing the cycle of effort and recovery, it's important to recognize that resilience is at the heart of enduring motivation. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back from failure, it's about building the mental and emotional fortitude to persevere through challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. The ability to stay focused, stay engaged, and keep moving forward even when things get tough is a skill that can be developed, and it's the key to maintaining long-term motivation in any pursuit. Resilience, in its essence, is about managing adversity. Life is full of challenges, obstacles, and moments where it feels like everything is working against us. Whether it's a setback in our personal goals, a failure in our professional life, or the unexpected twists and turns that come with any journey, resilience is what enables us to persist, adapt, and keep working toward our ultimate goals, even when things feel uncertain. One of the most important components of resilience is mindset. The way you view challenges, failure, and adversity plays a significant role in determining how resilient you are. If you approach obstacles with a fixed mindset, you may see them as insurmountable barriers, signs of your limitations, or proof that you're not cut out for the task at hand. This mindset often leads to frustration, defeat, and ultimately giving up. However, with a growth mindset, challenges become opportunities for learning, growth, and adaptation. When you view adversity as something you can learn from, rather than something that defines your ability or limits your potential, you develop resilience. With this mindset, failure is not a dead end, but a necessary part of the learning process. Every failure, every mistake, is simply a stepping stone toward mastery and achievement. The difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset is profound, and it's the cornerstone of developing resilience. If you find yourself falling into patterns of self-doubt or frustration when facing setbacks, remind yourself that each challenge is an opportunity to strengthen your resilience. Every time you persevere through difficulty, you build the neural connections that make resilience a habit rather than an exception. Building resilience also requires emotional regulation. Emotions, especially negative ones like frustration, fear, or self-doubt, can be powerful motivators to quit or give up. But learning to manage these emotions is a crucial part of resilience. Emotional regulation doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or pretending that difficulties don't affect you. It means understanding how to process and respond to those emotions in a constructive way. When faced with an emotional challenge, your first step is to acknowledge the emotion without judgment. Instead of labeling yourself as weak or incapable, recognize that emotions are natural and part of the human experience. Once you've acknowledged the emotion, the next step is to regulate it. This might involve grounding techniques like deep breathing or mindfulness to calm your nervous system and return to a state of clarity. In some cases, simply taking a short break or walking away from the situation can give you the mental space you need to reset. As you practice emotional regulation, you'll find that it becomes easier to stay calm and focused, even when faced with difficult or uncomfortable situations. This emotional control gives you the ability to maintain momentum in the face of adversity, allowing you to keep working toward your goals without becoming derailed by negative emotions. Resilience is also about building your capacity to adapt. The road to success is rarely linear, and most of us encounter obstacles, detours, or unexpected setbacks along the way. The more adaptable you are, the better equipped you'll be to navigate these challenges. Adaptability is about staying flexible and being open to change. It's about understanding that the path to success may require adjustments, pivots, or new strategies, and that's perfectly okay. One of the best ways to build adaptability is by embracing uncertainty. When you try something new or take a risk, there's no guarantee of success. The more you embrace uncertainty as a natural part of growth, the more resilient you'll become. Rather than being paralyzed by the unknown or overwhelmed by the possibility of failure, see it as an opportunity to learn, grow, and refine your approach. Each time you navigate uncertainty successfully, you build your resilience and strengthen your confidence in your ability to handle future challenges. Another powerful tool for building resilience is self-reflection. Taking time to reflect on your experiences, challenges, and progress allows you to learn from your mistakes and celebrate your victories. Self-reflection helps you identify what's working, what's not, and what changes need to be made. This process of self-awareness is a key component of resilience, as it allows you to adjust your strategies and mindsets as needed. It also reinforces the idea that setbacks are not permanent. They are opportunities for learning and improvement. When you encounter challenges, try to reflect on the experience in a constructive way. Ask yourself questions like, what did I learn from this experience? How can I use this challenge to grow stronger? What could I do differently next time? This practice of growth-oriented self-reflection will help you process setbacks with a sense of purpose and determination. It encourages you to see challenges not as roadblocks, but as lessons that will ultimately lead to greater success. One of the most important aspects of resilience is self-compassion. Resilience doesn't mean pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion or forcing yourself to work through every difficulty without pause. Resilience is about knowing when to take a step back, when to rest, and when to ask for help. It's about acknowledging your limits and treating yourself with kindness when you encounter setbacks. This is where self-compassion comes in. Rather than berating yourself when things go wrong or when you face failure, practice being gentle with yourself. Acknowledge that you're doing your best and remind yourself that setbacks are a natural part of the process. Self-compassion reduces the emotional burden of failure and allows you to approach challenges with a clearer, more balanced mindset. It helps you build resilience by reinforcing the idea that you're not defined by your failures. You are defined by your ability to bounce back, learn, and continue moving forward. Resilience also requires a sense of purpose. When you have a clear sense of why you're pursuing your goals, you're more likely to push through difficult moments. Purpose provides the emotional fuel that keeps you going when the path becomes difficult or uncertain. It helps you connect with the deeper reasons behind your efforts and reminds you why the struggle is worth it. To cultivate purpose, regularly reflect on your why, the underlying motivation that drives your actions. Whether it's the desire to improve yourself, provide for your family, or make a meaningful contribution to the world. Reconnecting with your purpose helps to reignite your motivation and boost your resilience. A clear sense of purpose transforms challenges from obstacles into opportunities to live out your values and pursue your passions. In conclusion, resilience is a skill that can be developed and strengthened over time. By cultivating a growth mindset, learning emotional regulation, practicing adaptability, engaging in self-reflection, and embracing self-compassion, you build the mental and emotional fortitude necessary to persevere through adversity. Resilience is the key to maintaining long-term motivation, as it empowers you to stay focused, stay engaged, and keep moving forward, even when the going gets tough. With each challenge you overcome, your resilience grows stronger, paving the way for greater success and fulfillment. As we explore the profound impacts of resilience on long-term motivation, it's also essential to recognize the importance of building sustainable effort. The desire to push forward and accomplish big goals is natural, but it's just as vital to focus on how you can maintain consistent, manageable effort without leading to burnout or exhaustion. Maintaining motivation over the long haul requires a balanced approach, an understanding that success is not about working harder or longer, but about working smarter and pacing yourself for sustained progress. In today's world, there is often an obsession with hustle culture, the idea that you need to constantly be working, always pushing yourself beyond your limits. While ambition and determination are admirable qualities, unchecked hustle can lead to burnout, fatigue, and loss of motivation. The key is to shift your perspective from doing more to doing better and creating a sustainable rhythm that allows for continuous growth without sacrificing your well-being. Building sustainable effort starts with understanding the importance of prioritization. Without clear priorities, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the sheer number of tasks on your to-do list. Instead of trying to accomplish everything at once, focus on what's most important and what will move you closer to your long-term goals. This involves setting clear, measurable objectives and understanding which tasks contribute most to your overall success. By focusing on high-priority actions, you create a sense of direction and purpose, which keeps your motivation high and your efforts streamlined. One effective method for prioritization is the Eisenhower matrix, a time management tool that helps you categorize tasks based on their urgency and importance. This simple framework divides tasks into 4 categories. Important and urgent, tasks that need immediate attention and have significant consequences if not done right away. 2. Important but not urgent, tasks that contribute to long-term goals but do not require immediate action. 3. Not important but urgent, tasks that may feel pressing but do not align with your core goals or values. Not important, and not urgent. Tasks that are neither essential nor time sensitive. By focusing your efforts on the tasks in the important but not urgent category, you ensure that your work aligns with your long-term vision and priorities. Tasks that fall into the not important and not urgent category can be minimized or eliminated, which frees up energy and time for more meaningful endeavors. Prioritization doesn't just apply to tasks, it also applies to your energy levels. Understanding when you're most productive during the day can help you structure your work and rest cycles to align with your natural rhythms. Most people experience a dip in energy after lunch, for example, while others may feel more focused and productive in the early hours of the morning. By being mindful of your energy levels and scheduling your most demanding tasks during peak performance times, you ensure that your efforts are both effective and efficient. Equally important to prioritization is planning for rest. The idea of relentless work without breaks is a productivity myth. As we've discussed, recovery is not just a luxury, it's an essential component of sustainable effort. Incorporating regular breaks into your schedule doesn't just help you recharge physically, it also allows your mind to reset. Taking short breaks throughout the day, along with longer breaks in between intense work periods, gives your brain the chance to process information, consolidate memories, and improve focus. The key is to create a rhythm where periods of effort are balanced with recovery, allowing you to perform at your best over the long term. A well-known method for ensuring sustainable effort is the Pomodoro technique, which we mentioned earlier. This technique encourages you to work in focused 25-minute intervals, followed by a short 5-minute break. After completing 4 cycles, you take a longer break of 15-30 minutes. This method has been shown to improve productivity while preventing mental fatigue, as it keeps your mind fresh and focused. However, while the Pomodoro technique is a great tool for managing effort, it's also essential to listen to your body. Some days you may need a longer break or a different rhythm. Flexibility is key to maintaining balance and avoiding burnout. Exercise and movement are also crucial components of sustainable effort. When we think about effort, we often focus solely on mental work, but physical activity plays an equally important role in maintaining motivation and mental clarity. Regular exercise increases blood flow to the brain, releases feel-good neurotransmitters like serotonin and endorphins, and reduces stress levels. Even short periods of physical movement, such as taking a walk or stretching, can help reset your mind and improve focus. By incorporating exercise into your daily routine, you create a healthy feedback loop where physical well-being supports mental focus and motivation. Another crucial aspect of sustainable effort is mindful self-awareness. It's easy to push ourselves to the point of exhaustion, believing that we need to work harder to achieve success. However, this mindset often leads to physical and mental burnout. Mindfulness involves checking in with yourself regularly to assess your energy levels, emotional state, and overall well-being. By staying connected to your body and mind, you can more effectively gauge when you're at your limits and need to take a break. Mindfulness also includes self-compassion, as we mentioned earlier. Being kind to yourself when you experience setbacks or fatigue is vital for long-term success. Instead of chastising yourself for needing rest or feeling discouraged, practice understanding and patience. Remind yourself that motivation ebbs and flows, and that taking time to recharge is a natural part of the process. With each setback, focus on what you've learned and how you can adjust your approach. Resilience is built not by forcing yourself to push through discomfort at all costs, but by recognizing when it's time to rest and refuel, so that you can continue moving forward with renewed energy. Alongside mindfulness, goal setting plays a key role in maintaining sustainable effort. When you set clear, realistic goals, you create a framework that helps you stay motivated and focused over time. However, it's important to break those goals into smaller, actionable steps to avoid feeling overwhelmed. This incremental approach makes it easier to maintain momentum, as you're able to celebrate small wins along the way. When your goals are broken down into manageable tasks, they feel more achievable, which helps to keep your motivation high even when faced with challenges. Finally, embracing progress over perfection is essential for maintaining sustainable effort. Perfectionism often leads to frustration, stress, and burnout, as you constantly strive for an ideal outcome, rather than focusing on the process. It's important to acknowledge that progress, no matter how small, is what matters most. Each step forward, no matter how incremental, is a victory in itself. Embrace the idea that mistakes and setbacks are simply part of the process, not indications of failure. By adopting a growth mindset and focusing on progress, you reduce the pressure that comes with perfectionism and allow yourself to keep moving forward with a healthier, more sustainable approach to effort. To maintain motivation over the long term, you must pave the way for consistent, sustainable effort. By prioritizing tasks, planning for regular rest, building exercise into your routine, practicing mindfulness, and embracing progress over perfection, you create a system where effort feels natural and achievable. The balance between effort and recovery, combined with a focus on incremental progress, ensures that you can continue working toward your goals without losing momentum or burning out. The key is to build a rhythm that supports long-term success, one that nurtures your physical and mental health while keeping you motivated to reach your highest potential. As you continue to create a balanced and sustainable rhythm of effort and recovery, another crucial aspect of long-term motivation lies in the power of habit formation. Habits are the foundation of our daily actions, and they have a profound impact on our ability to maintain focus, effort, and resilience over time. Building good habits and breaking bad ones is a central component of creating a life where motivation flows naturally, without the constant need for external pushes or willpower. Habits are powerful because they operate largely on autopilot. When something becomes a habit, you no longer have to consciously think about it. It becomes part of your routine. The brain loves efficiency, and habits are a way to reduce the cognitive load required to complete tasks. This is why people who have established strong, positive habits in their lives tend to be more consistent, focused, and motivated. Habits allow you to perform actions without expending excessive mental energy, which makes it easier to maintain motivation and stay on track toward your long-term goals. The key to building strong habits is understanding how they are formed. Neuroscientifically, habits are created through a process known as habit loop formation. Every habit has three components. 1. Cue. The trigger or signal that prompts the behavior. This can be an internal cue, such as a feeling of hunger or stress, or an external cue, such as seeing your workout gear or walking into your office. 2. Routine. The behavior itself that you perform in response to the cue. This could be anything from going for a run, to sitting down to write, to practicing a relaxation technique. Reward. The positive reinforcement that follows the behavior, which strengthens the habit loop. This could be a sense of accomplishment, relaxation, a burst of dopamine, or simply the relief of completing a task. The more you repeat a habit loop, the stronger it becomes. Over time, the behavior becomes automatic, and your brain no longer requires as much mental effort to initiate the action. This is why habits are so powerful. They allow you to act consistently and efficiently without relying on willpower or conscious thought. They are a form of mental shortcut that keeps you moving forward without unnecessary effort. To build a new habit, start by identifying a behavior you want to make automatic. This might be something simple, like committing to reading for 10 minutes every day, or taking a short walk after lunch. The key is to make the habit small and manageable, so that you don't overwhelm yourself or feel intimidated by it. Small, incremental habits are easier to adopt than grand gestures that require a lot of energy or willpower up front. Once you've identified the habit you want to form, the next step is to attach it to an existing routine. This is known as habit stacking. Habit stacking leverages an already established behavior to serve as the cue for your new habit. For example, if you already have a habit of making a cup of coffee every morning, you could stack a new habit such as journaling for 5 minutes immediately after you make your coffee. The coffee making process serves as the cue, and the journaling becomes the new routine that follows it. By stacking habits in this way, you make it easier to remember to perform the new habit and increase the chances of success. Equally important is to celebrate the reward. When you complete a new habit, it's essential to give yourself a small reward, whether it's a sense of accomplishment or a physical treat like a cup of tea or a few minutes of relaxation. This reward reinforces the behavior and strengthens the habit loop, making it more likely that you'll continue to perform the habit in the future. Building habits is a gradual process, and it requires patience. In the early stages, habits are not automatic, and you may have to remind yourself to perform the new behavior. However, over time, as you repeat the habit loop and reinforce the cue routine reward cycle, the behavior will become ingrained in your routine. Once a habit is formed, it no longer requires as much conscious effort, and you can maintain consistency with much less mental strain. But while habit formation is an incredibly powerful tool for creating long-term motivation, bad habits can also exert a powerful influence over our lives, often leading to procrastination, self-sabotage, and a lack of focus. The key to overcoming bad habits is to understand their structure and replace them with healthier alternatives. Just like good habits, bad habits also follow the same loop: cue, routine, reward. The difference is that the routine in a bad habit often provides short-term relief or pleasure, but ultimately hinders long-term success. For example, the cue might be stress, the trigger, and the routine could be procrastinating by checking social media or watching TV. The reward, in this case, might be temporary relief from the stress, but it ultimately creates more problems down the road. To break a bad habit, the first step is to identify the cue and reward. What triggers the behavior, and what are you gaining from it? Once you understand this, you can begin to replace the routine with a healthier alternative that provides a similar reward. If stress triggers your procrastination, for example, you could replace checking social media with a 5-minute meditation session or a short walk outside. The key is to find a new behavior that satisfies the same emotional need but is healthier and more aligned with your long-term goals. It's also important to reduce the cues for bad habits. If you're trying to stop mindlessly scrolling through your phone at night, for instance, you could reduce the temptation by leaving your phone in another room or using apps that limit screen time. By removing the cues, you make it harder for the bad habit to be triggered in the first place, increasing the likelihood of success. The process of habit replacement works because it taps into the brain's desire for efficiency and rewards. When you replace a bad habit with a better one, the new habit eventually becomes automatic and ingrained in your routine. It's important to remember that breaking a bad habit takes time and persistence, and setbacks are normal. Be patient with yourself as you work toward healthier behaviors, and remember that progress is more important than perfection. Another key strategy in building sustainable habits is the power of accountability. Sharing your goals with others or involving someone else in your habit-building process can dramatically increase your chances of success. Whether it's a friend, family member, or accountability partner, knowing that someone else is invested in your progress can provide the extra motivation needed to stick with a habit. When you have someone to report back to, it adds an element of external responsibility that reinforces your commitment to the habit. The habit loop, prioritization, planning, and accountability all work together to create a powerful system for sustaining effort over the long term. The more you practice building good habits and breaking bad ones, the more you create a life that supports motivation and progress day in and day out. These habits, when aligned with your long-term goals, become the driving force behind your success. In conclusion, habit formation is a powerful tool for creating long-term motivation and sustainable effort. By identifying key habits, attaching them to existing routines, celebrating rewards, and breaking bad habits through strategic replacements, you can cultivate a life of consistent growth and progress. The beauty of habits lies in their ability to operate on autopilot, allowing you to perform meaningful actions without relying on constant willpower. By understanding the science behind habits and using it to your advantage, you create a framework for lasting motivation and success. As we continue on the journey of rewiring your brain for sustained motivation and effort, one critical element remains: embracing discomfort. Many people avoid discomfort because it feels unpleasant or threatening. Whether it's physical discomfort, mental strain, or emotional vulnerability, the instinctive reaction is often to escape, avoid, or alleviate that discomfort. However, what if discomfort is not something to avoid, but something to lean into, something that holds the key to growth, transformation, and long-term success? The idea of embracing discomfort might sound counterintuitive. After all, our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, a primal survival mechanism designed to protect us from danger. But in the context of personal growth, discomfort is an essential and inevitable part of the process. Without it, we don't experience the challenge necessary for development, nor do we unlock the potential to reach new heights of motivation and accomplishment. Consider the process of muscle growth. When you exercise, particularly during weight training or other forms of resistance exercise, you're intentionally placing stress on your muscles. This stress causes tiny tears in the muscle fibers, and during the recovery process, the muscles rebuild and grow stronger. If you avoid the discomfort of lifting heavier weights or pushing through the fatigue, the muscles won't grow. It's the very act of engaging with and overcoming discomfort that stimulates strength and improvement. This principle applies not only to physical training, but to mental and emotional growth as well. When you take on a challenge that pushes you outside your comfort zone, whether it's tackling a difficult task, confronting a fear, or learning a new skill, you're creating the conditions for growth. Discomfort is the signal that you're moving in the right direction. It's the body's and brain's way of telling you that you're reaching the limits of your current abilities and that there is room for improvement. The first step in embracing discomfort is reframing it. Instead of seeing discomfort as a threat, start to view it as an opportunity. When you feel resistance, whether physical or mental, remind yourself that this discomfort means you are challenging yourself and expanding your capabilities. For example, when you feel the urge to procrastinate or avoid a difficult task, recognize that the discomfort you feel is simply a sign that the task is important for your growth. This reframing shifts your perspective from avoidance to active engagement. Another important aspect of embracing discomfort is learning to tolerate it. Tolerating discomfort doesn't mean accepting it passively or simply enduring it without any change. It means developing the capacity to sit with discomfort and not let it control your actions. This skill is particularly useful in moments when the discomfort feels overwhelming or when you want to quit. Instead of reacting by avoiding or escaping the discomfort, try to stay with it for a few moments longer. Over time, your ability to tolerate discomfort will increase, and you'll find that it doesn't have the same power over you. This ability to sit with discomfort is closely tied to emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the capacity to endure and manage negative emotions such as stress, frustration, and fear. These emotions, while uncomfortable, are often a natural part of any meaningful challenge. Emotional resilience allows you to remain focused, stay calm under pressure, and continue pushing forward despite the difficult emotions that arise. It's not about eliminating discomfort. It's about learning how to navigate it without being derailed by it. Building emotional resilience requires practice, and one of the most effective ways to cultivate this skill is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present and aware of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you learn to observe discomfort without reacting impulsively to it. Instead of immediately turning away from the discomfort, you simply acknowledge it, feel it, and allow it to pass. This helps to reduce the emotional charge associated with discomfort, making it easier to stay engaged with the task at hand. Mindfulness also allows you to reconnect with your values. In the face of discomfort, When you feel overwhelmed or discouraged, it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. Mindfulness brings you back to the present moment and helps you remember why you started in the first place. It reminds you of your long-term goals and the values that drive you. This reconnecting with purpose provides a powerful source of motivation that can help you push through discomfort and keep moving forward. Another way to embrace discomfort is to gradually increase the level of challenge. Just as you wouldn't expect to run a marathon without first training your body, you shouldn't expect to immediately embrace extreme discomfort without gradually building your tolerance. Start with smaller, manageable challenges that push you slightly outside your comfort zone. As you become more accustomed to discomfort, you can increase the intensity and duration of the challenges you take on. This gradual approach builds confidence and helps you become more comfortable with discomfort over time. For example, if you find public speaking intimidating, start by practicing in front of a mirror or with a small group of friends. As you become more comfortable, gradually increase the size of the audience. This gradual exposure to discomfort helps your brain reframe the experience from something fearful to something manageable and ultimately empowering. Over time, the very discomfort you once feared becomes a natural part of your growth process. One critical point to remember is that discomfort doesn't equate to suffering. While discomfort may feel challenging, it's important to differentiate between the discomfort that leads to growth and the suffering that comes from pushing beyond your limits in an unhealthy way. Pushing yourself too hard, too fast, without adequate recovery or support can lead to burnout or injury, physically, mentally, or emotionally. The key is to find a balance where the discomfort is productive, not harmful. This is where self-compassion comes into play. When you're embracing discomfort, be kind to yourself. Recognize that growth takes time, and setbacks or moments of weakness are part of the process. Don't beat yourself up when you feel resistance. Acknowledge it, learn from it, and keep going. Self-compassion allows you to engage with discomfort without shame or self-criticism. It encourages you to continue pushing forward, knowing that you're human and that discomfort is a sign of progress, not failure. The final piece of embracing discomfort is celebrating the progress that comes with it. Every time you push through discomfort, whether it's finishing a difficult task, overcoming a fear, or making progress on a long-term goal, take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. Recognize that discomfort is not something to be feared, but something to be celebrated. It's the very thing that drives growth, and each time you overcome it, you become stronger, more resilient, and more capable of taking on even greater challenges. In conclusion, embracing discomfort is a key element of sustaining motivation and achieving long-term success. By reframing discomfort, learning to tolerate it, and gradually increasing your tolerance for challenge, you unlock the potential for growth, resilience, and achievement. Discomfort is not something to avoid. It's a signpost pointing you toward progress. With the right mindset, emotional resilience, mindfulness, and self-compassion, you can learn to embrace discomfort as a powerful tool for transformation. Every step you take toward embracing discomfort builds your capacity to face future challenges with confidence, making discomfort not only bearable but essential for your growth. As you develop the ability to embrace discomfort and push through difficult moments, it's also essential to focus on the role of purpose in sustaining long-term motivation. Purpose isn't just a lofty concept, it's a fundamental motivator that influences every aspect of our behavior. When you align your efforts with a deeper sense of purpose, your motivation shifts from short-term gratification to long-term fulfillment. Purpose provides direction, clarity, and the inner strength to keep going when challenges arise. The importance of purpose cannot be overstated. Purpose is the fuel that drives you through difficult tasks, the force that keeps you going even when motivation wanes. When you're working toward a goal that is deeply connected to your core values, the effort required to achieve it doesn't feel like a burden. In fact, the process itself becomes meaningful and fulfilling. Whether it's achieving a career milestone, helping others, or making a positive impact on the world, Purpose provides the emotional and psychological sustenance necessary for sustained effort. Purpose also serves as a compass in moments of uncertainty. When faced with setbacks, obstacles, or moments of self-doubt, purpose can help you refocus. It reminds you of why you're doing what you're doing and keeps you grounded in your values. This clarity of direction reduces the mental noise that often accompanies challenges and keeps you focused on the bigger picture. The connection between motivation and purpose is rooted in neuroscience. When you're engaged in an activity that aligns with your values and purpose, your brain releases dopamine, which is not only the chemical associated with reward, but also the chemical of motivation. This means that when your actions are connected to something meaningful, your brain rewards you with the drive to keep going, making it easier to stay motivated and focused. However, finding your purpose is not always a straightforward process. Many people spend years searching for a clear sense of purpose, feeling lost or unsure about what drives them. The search for purpose can often be filled with confusion, doubt, and trial and error. But the good news is that purpose doesn't have to be a single grand vision. It can evolve over time and can be found in many different aspects of life, whether it's a commitment to personal growth, the desire to contribute to others, or the pursuit of creative expression. On a biological level, purpose-driven goals are also more likely to lead to greater resilience and perseverance. Research shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are more likely to bounce back from adversity, maintain focus in the face of challenges, and persist through difficulties. This is because purpose provides a sense of meaning that makes effort feel worthwhile. Instead of perceiving a task as just something to be done, you begin to see it as a step toward fulfilling a greater goal. What are the things I am most passionate about? A practical way to start discovering your purpose is through self-reflection. Set aside time to reflect on what truly matters to you, what excites you, what motivates you, and what aligns with your values. Ask yourself questions such as, when do I feel most fulfilled or energized? What values do I hold most deeply? By journaling or meditating on these questions, you can begin to uncover your core beliefs, motivations, and desires. These reflections may not immediately provide a crystal clear purpose, but over time they help you hone in on what truly matters to you and guide your efforts toward meaningful goals. What kind of impact do I want to have on the world or on others? Small actions that align with your purpose can also lead to profound changes in your motivation. As you incorporate purpose into your daily actions, you begin to see that each small effort contributes to a larger mission. This sense of progression toward a greater goal makes effort feel less tedious and more meaningful. For instance, if your purpose is to help others, every small act of kindness or service feels like a step toward that larger vision. One of the most powerful aspects of purpose is its ability to create intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the drive to perform an activity for its inherent satisfaction rather than for external rewards. When your work is aligned with your purpose, you are more likely to feel intrinsically motivated. This means you are motivated by the internal rewards of personal growth, satisfaction, and meaning, rather than external rewards such as money, recognition, or praise. Another effective method for clarifying your purpose is to look at the impact you want to have. Purpose is often tied to the idea of contributing to something larger than yourself, whether it's your community, your profession, or society as a whole. Consider the legacy you want to leave behind, or the way you want to make a difference in the lives of others. Purpose-driven individuals often report a greater sense of fulfillment when their work is connected to helping others or improving the world in some way. An important concept to understand is the difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation comes from external rewards, such as money, recognition, or fame. While extrinsic rewards can be powerful in the short term, they often don't sustain long-term motivation. In contrast, intrinsic motivation is driven by the enjoyment or meaning you find in the activity itself. Studies show that intrinsic motivation leads to greater creativity, persistence, and satisfaction. When your work is driven by purpose, you're more likely to find intrinsic motivation that keeps you going, even when the external rewards are delayed or absent. So how can you harness the power of purpose to fuel your motivation? Here are a few strategies. When you're intrinsically motivated, you're more likely to persist through challenges as the journey itself becomes rewarding. It's not about achieving a specific outcome. It's about the process of engaging with something meaningful. This type of motivation is more sustainable because it comes from within and is not dependent on external circumstances. Whether you succeed or fail, the experience of working toward a meaningful goal provides its own sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. 1. Clarify your values. Spend time reflecting on what matters most to you and align your actions with these values. What do you want to contribute to the world? What brings you fulfillment? 2. Set purpose-driven goals. Create goals that are connected to your larger sense of purpose. These goals should reflect what you care about deeply and what motivates you intrinsically. Focus on the process. Instead of fixating on the outcome, enjoy the journey and the growth that comes with it. Purpose-driven actions make the process itself fulfilling. By cultivating a sense of purpose, you create a powerful internal drive that keeps you motivated over the long term. Purpose provides a sense of direction, clarity, and meaning, which makes it easier to stay committed to your goals, even when faced with adversity. When your work aligns with your values and contributes to something larger than yourself, effort no longer feels like a struggle. It becomes an empowering experience that fuels your growth and success. 4. Revisit your purpose regularly. Take time to check in with yourself and reconnect with your purpose. Ask yourself if your current actions align with your values and long-term vision. 5. Seek meaning in your everyday tasks. Even mundane tasks can become meaningful when viewed through the lens of purpose. Find ways to link your actions, no matter how small, to your larger goals. In conclusion, purpose is the foundation of sustained motivation. It provides direction, clarity, and meaning to your efforts, making it easier to stay engaged with the process of growth, even when challenges arise. By aligning your actions with your values, setting purpose-driven goals, and focusing on the intrinsic rewards of personal development, you create a system of motivation that is both sustainable and fulfilling. Purpose transforms effort from a burden into a rewarding journey, and with each step, you move closer to achieving your highest potential. As you build on your sense of purpose and continue developing a foundation for sustainable effort, another powerful factor in maintaining long-term motivation is the concept of focus. While motivation and effort are essential to progress, focus is the mechanism that allows you to direct your energy and attention toward the right things at the right time. Focus is what enables you to avoid distractions, stay engaged with your tasks, and continue making meaningful progress toward your goals, even when external pressures or internal resistance arise. Focus is not just about concentrating for long periods. It's about the quality of your attention. It's about being fully present in the moment, engaging deeply with the task at hand, and cutting out distractions. The ability to focus is one of the most important skills for success, as it allows you to be productive, efficient, and effective in your efforts. However, focus is not something that comes naturally for everyone. In fact, the modern world, with its constant stream of notifications, distractions, and multitasking demands, has made it more difficult than ever to maintain sustained focus. This is why learning how to cultivate focus is a critical skill for long-term motivation and achievement. One of the primary reasons why focus is so important is that it helps you optimize your effort. When you're focused, you're able to put all of your mental and emotional energy into the task at hand. This enables you to work more efficiently and effectively, reducing the time it takes to achieve your goals. In contrast, when you lack focus, you may find yourself distracted by irrelevant thoughts, external interruptions, or competing priorities, making it much harder to make meaningful progress. The more focused you are, the more productive you become, and the more you're able to move forward with intention and clarity. Mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in the moment, is one of the most powerful ways to enhance focus. When you practice mindfulness, you train your brain to resist distractions and bring your attention back to the present moment. This practice helps you manage the inevitable distractions that arise throughout the day, enabling you to stay on task and maintain concentration. Mindfulness also improves your ability to regulate your thoughts and emotions, which is critical for staying focused on long-term goals. By incorporating mindfulness into your daily routine, you can strengthen your ability to focus, reduce stress, and improve your overall mental clarity. In addition to mindfulness, another key factor in improving focus is the elimination of distractions. Distractions, whether internal, such as wandering thoughts, or external, like social media notifications or noise, are one of the greatest obstacles to sustained focus. To improve your ability to focus, you need to create an environment that minimizes distractions and fosters deep work. One effective strategy is to create a designated workspace where you can work uninterrupted. This space should be free from clutter, noise, or other sources of distraction. You can also set boundaries with others, letting them know when you need focused time and when you're available to engage. Technology is often one of the biggest culprits when it comes to distractions. Our phones, computers, and other devices are constantly vying for our attention, sending notifications and updates that pull us away from our work. To combat this, consider limiting your use of technology during periods of focused work. You can use apps that block distracting websites, or set your phone to Do Not Disturb mode to prevent interruptions. By intentionally limiting distractions, you give yourself the space and mental clarity to focus on what matters most. Another powerful tool for maintaining focus is time management. Effective time management helps you structure your day so that you can dedicate specific blocks of time to particular tasks. One widely used technique for enhancing focus is the Pomodoro technique, which involves working in focused intervals of 25 minutes, followed by a short break. This structure helps you maintain high levels of concentration by giving your brain a chance to rest and recharge between work periods. By breaking your work into manageable chunks, you prevent mental fatigue and maintain a sense of momentum. Setting clear goals and priorities is also essential for sustaining focus. When you're clear on what you need to accomplish and why it matters, it's easier to direct your attention toward those tasks and avoid distractions. At the start of each day or week, take a few moments to outline your top priorities and break them down into smaller, actionable tasks. This clarity not only helps you stay focused, but also reduces the feeling of being overwhelmed by a long list of to-dos. In addition to setting goals, it's also important to manage your energy levels. Focus requires mental and physical energy, so if you're feeling exhausted or drained, it's much harder to stay concentrated. Ensuring that you get enough sleep, eat nutritious meals, stay hydrated, and exercise regularly is essential for maintaining your ability to focus. You can't expect to be fully focused if your body is running on empty. By taking care of your physical health, you give yourself the energy needed to sustain mental focus throughout the day. It's also essential to practice self-discipline when it comes to focus. Focus is not just about having the right environment or using the right tools. It's about the inner strength to resist distractions and stay committed to the task at hand. Building self-discipline is a gradual process, and it requires practice. You can start by setting small goals and gradually increasing the amount of time you spend focusing on a task. Each time you complete a task without succumbing to distractions, you strengthen your self-discipline and improve your ability to focus in the future. Another powerful way to improve focus is through the practice of single tasking. In a world that values multitasking, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that you need to juggle multiple tasks at once to be productive. However, research has shown that multitasking actually decreases efficiency and reduces the quality of work. When you focus on a single task at a time, You give it your full attention and energy, which leads to better results and a more fulfilling experience. By committing to single tasking, you not only improve your focus, but also make your work more enjoyable and meaningful. Finally, it's important to remember that focus is a skill that can be developed and strengthened over time. Like any skill, it requires practice and consistency. The more you practice focusing your attention on meaningful tasks, the better you become at it. As you continue to hone your ability to focus, you'll find that you're able to work more efficiently, stay motivated for longer periods, and experience a deeper sense of fulfillment in your efforts. In conclusion, focus is the cornerstone of long-term motivation and sustainable effort. It enables you to direct your energy and attention toward the tasks that matter most, helping you make consistent progress toward your goals. By practicing mindfulness, eliminating distractions, managing your time and energy, and building self-discipline, you can strengthen your ability to focus and improve your overall productivity. Focus is not just about getting things done. It's about staying present, being fully engaged with the process, and aligning your actions with your deeper sense of purpose. With sustained focus, you can achieve extraordinary things and maintain motivation over the long term. As you continue to build focus and integrate all the strategies for sustaining long-term motivation, another crucial component to explore is the role of self-reflection in maintaining clarity, growth, and resilience. Self-reflection is a powerful tool for enhancing your self-awareness, tracking your progress, and making the necessary adjustments to your efforts as you move toward your goals. It's not just about looking back at past actions, but about using that insight to actively shape the future of your efforts and behaviors. The act of self-reflection allows you to pause, step back, and assess where you are in your journey. It's a moment of introspection that helps you clarify your thoughts, evaluate your actions, and understand your motivations on a deeper level. Without this reflective process, you risk blindly continuing on a path without truly understanding why you're pursuing a particular goal or whether you're working toward it in the most effective way. Self-reflection helps you navigate this path with intention, ensuring that your actions align with your values, long-term vision, and purpose. One of the first benefits of self-reflection is its ability to increase self-awareness. By taking time to reflect on your daily actions, emotions, and behaviors, you gain insight into patterns of thinking and behavior that either support or hinder your progress. For example, you may recognize that you tend to procrastinate when faced with certain tasks, or that you feel most energized and productive during specific times of day. Understanding these tendencies allows you to make conscious decisions about how to structure your work, manage your energy, and overcome potential roadblocks. Self-awareness also helps you identify and address limiting beliefs. We all carry beliefs about ourselves, our abilities, and the world around us that shape our behavior. Some of these beliefs can empower us, while others can hold us back. For instance, if you believe that you're not good enough, or that failure is something to be avoided at all costs, you may subconsciously self-sabotage or avoid taking risks. Self-reflection allows you to challenge these limiting beliefs, question their validity, and replace them with more empowering perspectives that foster growth, learning, and resilience. An important aspect of self-reflection is the ability to track your progress. Many people struggle with maintaining motivation because they feel like they're not making any tangible progress toward their goals. This often happens because the progress is slow or not immediately visible. However, by regularly reflecting on the small steps you've taken, you'll begin to see how far you've come. Small wins, as we've discussed, are cumulative, and they contribute significantly to long-term success. Self-reflection helps you recognize these small victories, even when they seem insignificant, and celebrate them as part of the larger journey. This celebration reinforces your efforts and boosts your motivation, creating a positive feedback loop that propels you forward. Tracking progress also involves evaluating setbacks and failures. Instead of viewing failure as something to be ashamed of, self-reflection allows you to see it as a valuable learning experience. Failure is an inevitable part of growth, and it provides essential insights into what's working and what's not. When you reflect on setbacks, ask yourself questions like, what went wrong and why? What can I learn from this experience? How can I adjust my approach moving forward? What strengths can I build upon from this failure? By reframing failure as an opportunity for learning, you transform it from a negative experience into a positive catalyst for change. This mindset shift is crucial for long-term motivation, as it prevents you from becoming discouraged or giving up after facing obstacles. Self-reflection also gives you the opportunity to refine your goals. Over time, your goals and priorities may evolve as you learn more about yourself, your values, and your desired outcomes. Regular reflection allows you to evaluate whether your current goals still align with your evolving vision. If not, you can make adjustments to ensure that you're still working toward what truly matters to you. Goals that are rooted in your authentic desires are far more motivating than goals imposed by external pressures or outdated ideas. Self-reflection helps you stay connected to what you truly want to achieve, ensuring that your efforts are aligned with your deeper purpose. Another powerful aspect of self-reflection is its ability to cultivate gratitude. Often, when we are caught up in the hustle of achieving our goals, we focus on what we haven't yet accomplished or how far we still have to go. This can create feelings of dissatisfaction or frustration. Self-reflection, however, provides an opportunity to acknowledge the progress you've made and express gratitude for the journey itself. Taking time to reflect on what you're grateful for, whether it's the lessons you've learned, the support you've received, or the small steps you've taken, helps shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude has been shown to increase motivation, improve mental health, and enhance overall well-being, making it a powerful tool for sustaining long-term effort. Incorporating self-reflection practices into your daily routine can be incredibly simple and effective. Here are a few methods to consider. 1. Journaling. Set aside time each day to write down your thoughts, feelings, and observations. Journaling allows you to process your emotions, reflect on your actions, and track your progress. You can focus on what went well, what you've learned, and what you'd like to improve. 2. Meditation. Mindful meditation is an excellent way to quiet the mind, observe your thoughts, and gain clarity. During meditation, you can focus on your intentions, reflect on your challenges, or simply sit in silence and listen to your inner wisdom. 3. Daily check-ins. Take a few moments each day to assess how you're feeling and where you're at in your journey. Ask yourself what went well, what needs attention, and how you can improve tomorrow. This practice helps you stay present and aligned with your goals. 4. Weekly reviews. Set aside time each week to reflect on your accomplishments, challenges, and lessons learned. Use this time to assess whether you're on track with your goals and make any necessary adjustments. A weekly review provides a larger perspective and helps you adjust your approach as needed. Visual progress tracking. Use a visual tool like a progress chart or habit tracker to record your achievements. This provides a tangible reminder of how far you've come, which can be motivating during challenging times. As you make self-reflection a regular practice, you'll begin to notice its cumulative effects. You'll become more self-aware, more adaptable, and more in tune with your motivations and desires. Self-reflection helps you clarify your goals, understand your behavior, and identify the strategies that work best for you. It creates a feedback loop that encourages growth, learning, and continuous improvement, ensuring that your efforts are purposeful, intentional, and aligned with your true desires. Ultimately, self-reflection is a powerful tool for cultivating sustained motivation. It helps you gain clarity, build resilience, and stay focused on your goals. By regularly reflecting on your actions, progress, and mindset, you not only track your growth, but actively shape the trajectory of your success. With a commitment to self-reflection, you empower yourself to stay on course, adapt to challenges, and continue moving forward with confidence and purpose. As you continue refining your ability to stay motivated, embrace discomfort, and practice self-reflection, it's important to address the role of resilience and the ability to adapt in maintaining long-term motivation. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back from failure, it's about maintaining a mindset that allows you to stay committed to your goals in the face of challenges, setbacks, and unexpected circumstances. Life is unpredictable, and the road to success is rarely smooth. But with resilience, you can navigate through difficulties with greater ease, learning to adapt without losing momentum. At its core, resilience is the capacity to endure hardship, recover from setbacks, and still move forward. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up often comes down to their ability to handle adversity. While motivation is essential to start a project or goal, resilience is what keeps you going when things don't go according to plan. It's the ability to persevere when faced with obstacles, maintain focus in the midst of challenges, and keep pushing forward even when the finish line seems distant. One of the most significant aspects of resilience is the mindset with which you approach adversity. People who are resilient tend to see setbacks and failures not as signs of personal inadequacy, but as opportunities for growth and learning. They have a growth mindset, which means they believe that abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and persistence. This mindset allows them to view challenges as opportunities to learn rather than as roadblocks. In contrast, those with a fixed mindset who believe that their abilities are static may view challenges as threats, leading them to give up when faced with difficulties. To cultivate resilience, it's important to adopt a solution-oriented mindset. When faced with adversity, resilient individuals don't focus on the problem itself or wallow in frustration. Instead, they focus on finding solutions. They ask themselves, what can I do to move forward from here? This mindset shift is crucial because it helps you move away from feelings of helplessness and toward constructive action. Every problem has a solution, and by staying focused on finding that solution, you empower yourself to keep moving forward, even when circumstances are difficult. Emotional regulation also plays a critical role in resilience. When faced with setbacks or stressful situations, our emotions can often cloud our judgment and make it harder to think clearly. Resilient individuals are able to manage their emotions and avoid getting overwhelmed by them. They acknowledge their feelings, but don't let them control their actions. Instead of reacting impulsively or giving in to frustration, they take a step back, process their emotions, and choose a more measured, deliberate response. To improve emotional regulation, one effective strategy is mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you become aware of your emotions in real time and allows you to observe them without judgment. Instead of letting your emotions dictate your behavior, mindfulness gives you the space to choose how to respond. This ability to create distance between your emotions and actions is a key aspect of resilience and helps you maintain focus and clarity in challenging situations. Another key component of resilience is adaptability. The ability to adapt to changing circumstances, adjust your approach when things aren't working, and remain flexible in the face of uncertainty is essential for long-term success. Life doesn't always go according to plan, and the ability to pivot or change direction when necessary is a hallmark of resilient individuals. They understand that success is not a linear path, but rather a series of twists and turns that require constant adaptation. For example, if one approach isn't yielding the results you want, being resilient means you don't give up immediately. Instead, you try a different approach, gather feedback, and adjust your strategy accordingly. Adaptability isn't about abandoning your goals. It's about being flexible in your methods and finding creative solutions to problems as they arise. Resilience is about staying focused on the bigger picture while being willing to adjust your tactics when necessary. Another key aspect of resilience is the ability to bounce back from failure. Everyone experiences failure at some point on their journey towards success. However, resilient individuals don't see failure as permanent. They view it as a temporary setback that can be overcome. When you fail, instead of beating yourself up or getting discouraged, you can use the experience to learn valuable lessons. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this experience? What can I do differently next time? This learning-oriented mindset helps you grow from failure rather than allowing it to stop you in your tracks. The more you practice this approach, the more you develop the resilience to face future setbacks with confidence, knowing that failure is not the end, but simply a stepping stone on the path to success. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen resilience is by building a support system. While personal resilience is important, we are not meant to go through challenges alone. Resilient individuals often have a strong network of supportive friends, family members, mentors, or colleagues who provide encouragement, guidance, and perspective. A support system can offer reassurance during difficult times, help you stay accountable to your goals, and provide constructive feedback when you need it most. Being resilient doesn't mean you have to do everything on your own. It's about knowing when to reach out for help and being open to support. When you face adversity, your support system can help you gain perspective, offer solutions, and remind you of your strengths. Having people who believe in you and encourage you, even when things aren't going well, makes it easier to stay motivated and continue working toward your goals. An often overlooked aspect of resilience is self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on yourself when things aren't going as planned or when you experience failure. However, being too self-critical can hinder your resilience and motivation. Resilient individuals practice self-compassion by treating themselves with kindness and understanding during difficult moments. They acknowledge their struggles without judgment and remind themselves that setbacks are a normal part of life. Instead of dwelling on mistakes or flaws, self-compassion allows you to focus on learning and growing from the experience. By practicing self-compassion, you reduce feelings of guilt, shame, and frustration, which can drain your energy and motivation. Instead, you foster a mindset of acceptance and patience, which enables you to bounce back from setbacks more quickly and continue moving forward with renewed strength and clarity. In summary, resilience is a crucial element of sustained motivation. It involves having the mental and emotional strength to overcome challenges, adapt to changing circumstances, and bounce back from setbacks. By cultivating a growth mindset, practicing emotional regulation, embracing adaptability, and seeking support when needed, you build the resilience necessary to stay committed to your goals. Resilience isn't about avoiding failure or hardship, it's about how you respond to it. By strengthening your resilience, you enhance your ability to stay focused, maintain motivation, and continue moving forward no matter what obstacles arise. As you develop resilience and refine your focus, another crucial element of long-term motivation is the power of consistency. In the journey toward achieving your goals, the key to success often lies not in bursts of intense effort, but in the consistent daily actions you take over time. Consistency is what turns short-term motivation into long-term results. It's the repetitive, small actions, day after day, that accumulate and propel you forward in the pursuit of your dreams. In a world where instant gratification is often valued over delayed rewards, learning to embrace consistency is one of the most powerful ways to maintain steady momentum toward your goals. The first step in embracing consistency is understanding that success doesn't come overnight. The world often celebrates quick wins and overnight success, but the reality is that long-lasting achievement is a product of consistent effort, even when the results aren't immediately visible. Building a business, mastering a new skill, or pursuing any significant goal is a slow and steady process. It requires the kind of sustained effort that builds over time. Without consistency, even the most ambitious goals will remain out of reach. Consistency by its nature requires patience. It's about showing up day after day, even when the initial excitement fades, or when you encounter obstacles along the way. It's easy to be motivated at the beginning of a new project, when the idea is fresh and exciting. However, motivation tends to fluctuate, and there will be days when you feel less inspired. That's when consistency becomes your greatest ally. On days when motivation is lacking, your commitment to showing up and doing the work anyway is what keeps you on track. By focusing on the daily actions that align with your goals, you remove the reliance on fleeting motivation and build momentum from the simple act of showing up, no matter how small the task. To cultivate consistency, make small, manageable actions the cornerstone of your daily routine. Break down large, daunting tasks into smaller, more achievable steps. By doing this, you remove the pressure of having to complete a huge task all at once and make it easier to remain consistent. For example, if you're working on writing a book, instead of aiming to write the entire manuscript in one go, commit to writing just a few pages each day. Over time, these small actions will compound, and you'll find that you've made substantial progress toward your goal. Another important factor in building consistency is setting realistic expectations. While it's important to be ambitious, setting goals that are too big or unrealistic can lead to frustration and burnout. Instead of overwhelming yourself with unattainable expectations, focus on goals that are challenging yet achievable. By doing so, you set yourself up for success, as each small accomplishment motivates you to continue the process. Consistency is built upon small, repeated actions, and setting yourself up for success with manageable goals ensures that you stay motivated and engaged throughout the process. One of the most powerful tools for building consistency is the power of habits. As we've discussed before, habits are automatic behaviors that require little conscious thought. When you make an action a habit, it becomes much easier to maintain consistency, as it becomes an integrated part of your daily routine. For example, if your goal is to exercise more, start by making exercise a daily habit. Commit to working out at the same time each day, whether it's a short walk, a stretching routine, or a more intense workout. As the action becomes a habit, it requires less effort to perform, and the consistency becomes natural. Consistency is also deeply tied to the concept of small wins. When you make progress, no matter how small, it fuels your motivation and strengthens the habit. Each small victory adds up, contributing to a larger sense of accomplishment. As you continue to build on these small wins, you create positive momentum, which makes it easier to stay consistent and move closer to your larger goals. The process of consistency isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up, doing the work, and celebrating the small wins that add up over time. While consistency is essential, it's also important to recognize that it's not about blind persistence. There will be times when you need to adjust or reevaluate your approach. Consistency doesn't mean doing the same thing over and over without considering new information or potential improvements. If something isn't working, it's important to reflect on why that is and make necessary changes. The key is to maintain the commitment to doing something consistently, but not necessarily to the same method forever. Adjustments are part of the process of fine-tuning your efforts and ensuring that your actions align with your goals. One of the biggest challenges to consistency is the fear of failure. Many people hesitate to take consistent action because they're afraid of making mistakes or failing. The fear of failure can lead to procrastination and hesitation, preventing you from taking the necessary steps to move forward. To overcome this, shift your perspective on failure. Rather than seeing failure as a setback, view it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Embrace the idea that making mistakes is part of the journey, and that consistent effort, even with occasional failure, is the path to eventual success. Another obstacle to consistency is burnout. If you're pushing yourself too hard, too quickly, without adequate rest, your motivation will eventually diminish. It's important to balance consistent effort with recovery and relaxation. Pacing yourself is crucial for maintaining long-term consistency. Break down your goals into manageable chunks, give yourself regular breaks, and make sure to schedule downtime. Consistency doesn't mean working non-stop. It's about working smart, balancing effort with recovery, and ensuring that you're maintaining your physical and mental well-being throughout the process. Accountability is another key factor in fostering consistency. When you have someone to share your goals with or report back to, it increases your commitment to following through. Accountability can come from a friend, family member, colleague, or even a coach or mentor. Knowing that someone else is invested in your success can provide the extra motivation to stay consistent, even on days when your own motivation feels lacking. Regular check-ins and feedback from an accountability partner help you stay on track, reflect on your progress, and make any necessary adjustments to your approach. One final piece of the puzzle when it comes to consistency is tracking progress. Keeping track of your actions and achievements provides a tangible reminder of how far you've come. This tracking system could be as simple as keeping a journal or using a habit tracking app. Seeing your progress in real time reinforces the behaviors you're trying to develop and motivates you to continue. Progress tracking is especially powerful because it helps you see that every small step is moving you closer to your goal. It also allows you to celebrate your victories and keep the momentum going. In conclusion, consistency is the cornerstone of long-term motivation and achievement. By committing to small, manageable actions every day, you create a momentum that propels you forward even when motivation wanes. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about showing up, taking deliberate action, and learning from each step you take. With realistic goals, supportive habits, and the courage to overcome obstacles like fear and burnout, you can maintain a steady, unwavering commitment to your long-term success. Through consistency, you unlock the power of sustained effort and pave the way for achieving even the most ambitious of goals. As you reach the final stages of understanding how to maintain sustained motivation and consistent effort, it's essential to reflect on the concept of self-mastery. Self-mastery is the culmination of all the principles we've explored. The ability to regulate your emotions, stay focused, embrace discomfort, and remain consistent. It's about developing control over your actions, thoughts, and behaviors so that you can make deliberate progress toward your goals, regardless of the circumstances. At its core, self-mastery is the practice of aligning your daily habits, mindset, and decisions with your deeper values, long-term objectives, and inner purpose. It's about taking responsibility for your growth and taking consistent action to develop the qualities and skills that will lead to success. Self-mastery is not a one-time achievement. Rather, it's an ongoing process that requires continuous refinement and commitment. It's about cultivating inner strength and discipline, developing emotional intelligence, and making decisions based on your long-term vision instead of momentary impulses. The foundation of self-mastery lies in self-awareness. In order to master yourself, you must first understand who you are, your strengths, weaknesses, motivations, fears, and desires. Self-awareness gives you the clarity needed to make informed decisions about how to approach challenges and navigate difficult moments. When you are aware of your tendencies, triggers, and emotional patterns, you are better equipped to respond in a constructive way rather than reacting impulsively. Developing self-awareness can be achieved through various practices, including journaling, mindfulness, and regular self-reflection. By pausing to observe your thoughts and actions, you can gain insight into your behaviors and motivations. Self-awareness also helps you understand the root causes of your actions, which allows you to take more control over them. For example, you may discover that you procrastinate because of fear or perfectionism, not because you lack motivation. Once you identify the underlying causes of your behavior, you can develop strategies to address them and make more intentional decisions. Another essential component of self-mastery is the ability to manage your emotions. Emotions are powerful forces that can either drive you towards success or derail your progress. To master yourself, you must learn to regulate your emotions in a way that serves your goals. This doesn't mean suppressing or ignoring your emotions, but rather understanding them, processing them, and responding in a way that aligns with your deeper intentions. For example, if you feel frustration or anxiety when faced with a difficult task, instead of reacting impulsively by quitting or avoiding it, self-mastery teaches you to pause, acknowledge your emotions, and choose a more productive response. You might take a few deep breaths, reframe your thoughts, and remind yourself of the bigger picture. By regulating your emotions, you gain control over your actions, which allows you to make decisions that are aligned with your long-term vision. Discipline is also a cornerstone of self-mastery. Discipline is the ability to stay committed to your goals, even when external motivation is lacking, or when you face challenges. It involves creating structure in your life and sticking to it, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Discipline is about making decisions in the present that will lead to the outcomes you desire in the future. It requires the ability to delay gratification and stay focused on long-term rewards, rather than immediate pleasure or comfort. One way to cultivate discipline is to develop positive habits that support your goals. Consistent habits make self-mastery easier because they create a framework for success. For example, if your goal is to improve your physical health, developing the habit of exercising regularly, eating nutritious meals, and getting enough sleep will create the foundation for a healthy lifestyle. These habits, when practiced consistently, become automatic and require less conscious effort, making discipline feel like second nature. Self-mastery also involves taking responsibility for your actions. It's about recognizing that you are in control of your decisions and that you have the power to shape your future. Instead of blaming external circumstances or other people for your situation, you take ownership of your choices and outcomes. This sense of responsibility empowers you to take action, make adjustments, and learn from your experiences. When you take responsibility for your life, you no longer feel like a passive participant in your own journey. You become an active creator of your future. Another critical aspect of self-mastery is embracing challenges. Life is full of obstacles, setbacks, and difficulties, and it's easy to shy away from challenges that seem difficult or intimidating. However, self-mastery requires you to face challenges head-on, seeing them as opportunities for growth rather than threats. Embracing challenges means stepping out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself to take on tasks that stretch your abilities. It's through these challenges that you develop resilience, strength, and the skills necessary to succeed. When you approach challenges with a growth mindset, you view them as stepping stones to greater knowledge and achievement. Every challenge is an opportunity to refine your skills, expand your capabilities, and prove to yourself that you are capable of achieving more. Embracing challenges means not avoiding discomfort, but rather learning how to navigate through it and emerge stronger on the other side. Self-mastery also requires the ability to stay adaptable. While discipline and consistency are essential, it's also important to remain flexible in the face of changing circumstances. Life rarely goes exactly as planned, and the ability to adjust your approach when necessary is a key part of self-mastery. Being adaptable doesn't mean abandoning your goals or vision. It means being open to adjusting your methods when faced with unforeseen obstacles or new information. Adaptability allows you to stay focused on your end goal while remaining responsive to the evolving nature of life's challenges. One of the most powerful tools for achieving self-mastery is deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is the act of consciously working to improve your skills, knowledge, and abilities in a focused, intentional way. It's not about mindlessly going through the motions, but about engaging in purposeful activities that push you to improve. Deliberate practice requires you to step outside your comfort zone, make mistakes, and refine your techniques. Over time, this kind of practice leads to mastery and allows you to reach higher levels of performance. Finally, self-compassion is essential for self-mastery. It's easy to be overly critical of yourself when you don't meet your own expectations, but self-mastery requires you to be kind and patient with yourself. Instead of berating yourself for mistakes or setbacks, self-compassion allows you to treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend. When you practice self-compassion, you create a nurturing environment where you can grow, learn, and develop without the fear of failure or judgment. In conclusion, self-mastery is the ability to align your thoughts, actions, and behaviors with your long-term goals, values, and purpose. It's about developing the inner strength to control your emotions, stay focused, embrace challenges, and make deliberate progress toward your objectives. Through self-awareness, discipline, emotional regulation, and adaptability, you can develop the resilience and mindset necessary to maintain long-term motivation and success. Self-mastery is not about being perfect, it's about being intentional, disciplined, and committed to your growth. It's a lifelong journey that requires continuous effort, but with each step, you move closer to becoming the best version of yourself.